It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Ball in the near hash. Richardson, good protection, hanging in there, taking a shot down the far sideline. He's got Alec Pierce. Pierce at the 10. He's at the 5, and then rolled out of bounds at the 4-yard line. 44 yards, another bomb. Alec Pierce strikes again. Colts looking for their first points, trying to get a touchdown here on 3rd and goal inside the 5. Shotgun snap, angling left, throws. It's wobbly, and it is tipped, and it is intercepted in the end zone by the Chicago Bears with Tremaine Edmonds. Caleb Williams taking a shot down the near sideline. Over the shoulder grab is made. Rome Odunze out of Washington. Big play for Chicago, their first of the afternoon. Williams goes out of the gun. 3 receivers move to his left. Backing to throw, plants, settling in, hitching, throws upfield, picked off by the Colts to the near sideline. It's Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones stepped in front of the pass. Richardson out of the gun, backs to throw, play action, has time, wide open over the far sideline. This is a catch. Kylan Granson with yards after that grab, scooting inside the 30-yard line, hammered out of bounds. Colts to the 29-yard line. They're back to work the line of scrimmage. Right side give to Jonathan Taylor, breaks it out. He's at the 20, 25, 10, he's at the 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor scoots in from 29 yards out. 4th and goal at the 1-yard line, under 2 minutes in the first half. Williams out of the gun. Swift back in. Pistol formation. They're running the option. They pitch it to Swift. Swift hit. Loses his footing. Back around the 15-yard line. Slips around the 13. Oh, what a play by the Colts. Jalen Jones sniffed it out. And it's a huge tackle for loss by the Colts defense. No points for the Bears. 1st and 10 for the Colts on their own 30-yard line, going left to right. Play action, rolling out right side is Richardson. Again taking a shot, airmails it, intercepted, picked off by the Bears. Jalen Johnson with the interception. The pass was intended downfield for Michael Pittman Jr. on the first play of the second half. The Colts throw their second interception of the ball game. 3 receivers right, 2 go left. Colts bring in pressure. Williams, great protection, still dancing. Now he's in trouble. He'll be sacked inside the 10, and it's Kenny Moore. The nickel corner gets a sack. Moving on the Colts right to left. Play action, deep drop for Williams. Stands tall. He's going to slide it upfield, and he throws it into a crowd of Colts. Almost intercepted. Hang on, it's picked off. Jalen Jones, number 2. Richardson out of the gun. Sermon stays in as the back left. And they give it to Sermon. Sermon runs into 2 players being pushed forward by the Colts. It's a push upfield, and the momentum for the Colts is into the end zone. Touchdown! Play action. Backing to throw is Williams. And the ball is out. It's a strip sack. It's available for it. And I think the Colts have it around the 17-yard line. Latu with a strip sack, and it's recovered, I think, by Grover Stewart. The 3rd takeaway of the ball game for the Colts on defense. Shotgun snap. They give it to Taylor. Taylor sneaks his way across the goal line. Yes, sir. There it is. Touchdown. Here's a counter right side to Taylor. Taylor's got 100 yards, 40, 45, and a first down, more importantly. And he is going to blast his way to the 47-yard line for a gain of 13, and that should about do it.
We all needed that, just to change the mood around, around our facility.
It only takes one. It only takes one to get rolling.
And we're winning.
How about entertainingly ugly? I don't know if entertainingly is a word, but nonetheless, it doesn't take very long for us to screw this show up. So how about less than a minute into it on a Monday? We'll go with entertainingly ugly. Thank you, Mark Dykton. Maybe some salt and wounds having to cut that for your Bears. The Colts get their first win of the season. Zaire Franklin, their leading tackler from yesterday, going to join us at 8 o'clock. Plenty to get to here on this Monday morning. I'm Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney alongside. Again, thank you, Mark, for cutting that intro up. Good Monday morning to you. Andy, congrats to your Giants.
Well, you got to, hey, listen.
Your pesky Giants.
Listen, to get to the playoffs, it all starts with that first win.
All the winless teams got it done yesterday, right?
A lot of 1 and 2 in the NFL. It's good to see you guys. And, man, I'm telling you, it was quite the scene there around Lucas Oil. And our man Mark Dykton went from not having any tickets to having all the tickets, apparently. Too many tickets. Mm-hmm. He was giving away tickets to the game yesterday.
Sounds like Matt Eberflus calling timeouts.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. What a mess. The Bears' offensive line, seen it up close. Poor Caleb Williams is not going to make it the entire season. C.J. Stroud was right that he's not going to make it the entire season. And you were right. You mentioned it there. You wrote about it on the website, KB. It was an ugly game, and the Colts found a way to be a little bit less ugly than the Chicago Bears on Sunday.
See, I define ugly, like the definition of ugly for me is Colts-Broncos, that Thursday night game from a couple years ago. I thought yesterday had some entertaining moments. So I can't, maybe a little lipstick on the pig, but still.
Oh, it was a pig. Don't worry about it.
There were some very exciting ebbs and flows, or a little bit of a, you better not go to the bathroom because you don't know what you're going to see from that one. Obviously, we'll get to the erratic and turnover day for Anthony Richardson.
Oof.
And then defensively, the Colts finally earned the right to rush the passer, and what a moment for the 15th overall pick out of UCLA. That was vintage Mathis, vintage Freeney when you need it the most. Laiatu Latu slams the door shut, and really just more defensive playmaking. And maybe it took a slump buster for you to fall into that category, but we hadn't seen that against Malik Willis. Certainly didn't see it in week one, and that was so needed. There's so many plays that you go back to. I mean, Mark, edited in that goal line stand. I mean, what a play there. Not only, you think about a goal line stand, that started at the 4-yard line. I mean, it wasn't just the speed option on the 4th and goal. I mean, what about the tackle on the Hail Mary?
No,
as weird as that sounds.
It was unbelievable. I know. You forget about that
Julian
play.
Blackman, EJ Speed.
It was a great play. It really was.
I mean, just so many of like those little moments where it just takes one of them. If they don't, go your way, you don't create that. Jalen Jones doesn't come up with a pick or two. We could be talking about a whole different story. And 0-3 versus 1-2 could not be more far apart.
Yeah, if we walked in here today, KB, you're exactly right. And they're 0-3. It's the season's over. It's Chris Ballard's a bum. It's, what about Anthony Richardson? Bench AR, put in Joe Flacco. I'm sure there'd be people that would say that. Blow up the defense. Get rid of Gus Bradley. Last week we had the Gus Bradley discussion, and that would be white hot, I guess you could say, coming into this week. But the Colts, listen, it is a bottom line business, and I do mean this because, whether it be today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and then, of course, later in the week we'll turn everything to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Listen, there was still a ton of negative, especially from Anthony Richardson, but it is and we'll get to it, it is a bottom line business, and the bottom line is the Colts needed to get a win, and it could have been pretty, it could have been ugly, there's many different ways to draw it up. The Colts had to get a win on Sunday. They absolutely could not leave Lucas Oil Stadium 0-3 with everything falling around them, and they got the win. And so I know there'll be people that get sensitive to it. Why are you being negative when we talk about Anthony Richardson or, a number of other things in the game? But the bottom line business is that they had to get a win, and you don't apologize for getting a win in the NFL.
Patience, vision, that another gear. Jonathan Taylor looks like his old self. I think that's been abundantly clear here, especially these last two games. And the offensive line, I think, continues to provide Anthony Richardson with a lot of clean pockets, which probably heightens the scariness of the erratic nature for Richardson here early in the season. It's because he is operating behind a healthy and a well-executing offensive line, which certainly cannot be said for Caleb Williams right now. And you want to talk about a banged-up offensive line, the Steelers are 3-0, but they are certainly that when they come in here in 6 days. So plenty to get to here on this Monday morning. The Fever are on the brink, weirdly, of not only their season ending, but also on the brink of potentially having a home game on Friday.
Boy, that was a bad one yesterday.
That's the nature of this best-of-3 series, but they got blown off the floor in the second half in Connecticut. 69 points scored. They lose by 24. Caitlin Clark poked in the eye, and 4 of 17 afternoon for her. So ugly for the Fever there in round one, game one of the playoffs, and a little college football as well, as the Indiana Hoosiers continue their strong start to the season. And now they go from freshman ball to JV ball, but they continue to be really playing like an IU team we have not seen in frankly, in years. And so they will have Maryland coming up on Saturday.
Is that JV, I guess, then? I guess it is. Maryland, they're the JV.
Did you see Charlotte's head coach? Boy. Did he not look like a freshman football coach?
Boy, what was that guy's name? Biff? Biff, I even tweeted about it. I forgot about how awesome that Ohio coach looks like. Every few years you see him in a bye game, you're like, man, that man looks like me in about 15 years if I end up coaching some college football.
It's like me if I went on like 3 straight bachelor parties.
That guy looks fantastic. And your Notre Dame Fighting Irish won an ugly game. Boy, they're not very good, are they?
Accuracy competition, Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard. Who wins?
Oh, boy. I'll say Anthony Richardson, barely, by 2 percentage points there. Reminder, Zaire Franklin going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll do our Goats of the Weekend headlines, so dial us up on our Wake Up Call Twitter account. You can respond to that. Mark put that up yesterday after the game. I said, KB, the bottom line was that they got the win, and they did get the win. I want to make sure that is first and foremost. You mentioned Jonathan Taylor. I mean, my takeaway, and I thought the TV broadcast, you have Tiki Barber on that broadcast, and I thought Tiki Barber, time and time again, really praised Jonathan Taylor for his vision, his ability to kind of sidestep and then get upfield quicker than anybody, outrunning, corners and safeties and linebackers and everything else. So I tell you what, you mentioned the offensive line, you mentioned the running game, and then you mentioned yesterday, and we had fun with it, but that offensive line, like the Bears' offensive line, if you took the entire NFL and you took the different units, offensive line, defensive line, secondary, whatever it may be, I mean, there's a Mount Rushmore of crap, and the Bears' offensive line has to be on that Mount Rushmore of crap, are they not? When you talk about a single unit that can sink your team, I'm listening to ESPN radio this morning, and they're killing Caleb Williams. And I'm not standing up for Caleb Williams. I mean, he had some bad decisions yesterday, and the Colts forced him into some bad decisions yesterday. But he is two goobers over there on the sideline. I mean, Matt Eberflus, you can't score your defense is playing well, kick the damn field goal. And you have two goobers on the sideline, and that is the worst offensive. I mean, he snaps the ball. There are three guys on that sweep play. I mean, the pictures that are out of the entire offensive line laying down on that fourth down call while the entire linebacking crew and Wolf Zaire at 8 o'clock and the entire defensive line, there's a picture out there, KB, where there's poor DeAndre Swift, and I'm laughing at DeAndre Swift, and there's 7 Indianapolis Colts defenders in a 5-yard radius.
I saw that picture, and I thought it was Photoshopped. I'm like, that can't be real.
I thought it
looked
was
like my daughter's soccer team. We have
Literally,
we have one kid that tries the whole game, and I thought that was DeAndre Swift.
4 of 5 offensive linemen are laying on the ground. I'm like, what in the hell is this?
Like, the play just happened. How are you laying on the ground after a second and a half of a football play? But listen, again, the Colts did what they needed to do. The defense looked great, and you feel good. Listen, Jalen Jones is a guy that we've wondered, hey, is he an NFL corner? And yesterday, he had 2 picks, and that second one was fantastic.
Well, and the thing about Jalen Jones' day, if you want to break him down like as an individual, Andy, it was far from perfect.
Oh,
sure. He missed multiple tackles.
Sure.
He had a defensive pass interference penalty that, you like the aggression, but he definitely got there early. But yet he sprinkles in the huge playmaking. And sprinkle is probably not the right term, because when you do that, when you make the 4th and goal play, when you step up in the sudden change defense, when Latu has the strip sack, that can make up for a day in which Chicago moved the football.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
Chicago had 7 drives in Colts territory, and they had 16 points in the game. It's because of those timely plays that can outweigh the, hey, Rome Odunze did this, or Cole Kmet seemingly had, 10 catches for 100 yards, something like that at the end of the day. Do you make the timely plays? And what did Jalen Jones do? He takes a field goal right off the board as Caleb Williams throws a ball that I guess he was trying to throw away. I don't really know what he was doing on that first pick there. But Jones' interception makes that go from incompletion to removing, a Cairo Santos field goal, as long as Cairo Santos could kick the ball far enough. So, like, those plays, I mean, Latu strip sack, that's everything. I mean, that is a 4-man rush by the Colts. It's not some heavy blitz. It's a first down play with the Bears getting the ball back, down 1 score. And that is Latu making the exact play you dreamed of when you drafted him 15th overall. 4th quarter, we've got a lead. Can you win one-on-one? And can you make a play that slams the door shut? It's vintage Mathis. It's vintage Freeney. That is exactly what you want out of your rookie. And for him to be a day 1 guy in his 3rd NFL game and have the ability to provide that is rare. And it's not a given. So that defensive playmaking for me, that was a difference from what we saw in weeks 1 and 2. And again, there's an element of you can only play who steps in front of you. And IU football is a perfect example of that.
They're the best example.
Right now. So in no way, shape, or form, I'm saying 1 win turns into 11 for the Colts, and they're going to host a home playoff game come January. But for one Sunday, they created those plays that had been missing in weeks 1 and weeks 2. And there are some things that are more constants. Jonathan Taylor has been more of a constant. Frankly, Anthony Richardson, that's now 2 in a row of very erratic and turnover-filled ball. That's, a constant in the negative direction so far here through the first couple of games. So these are all questions that you sift through on an NFL season. But again, individually, guys like Jalen Jones and Latu and some of those plays that were made by that defense, those were huge. And they took advantage of certainly a wounded animal, but at the same time, you've got to do your part. You didn't do it the week prior against Malik Willis. You certainly did it yesterday.
Boy, and you guys weren't kidding. There were a lot of Bears fans in attendance yesterday. Man.
Mark, what would you say? I thought 35 to 40%.
Yeah, I had it about 40%.
Yeah. There was just a sea of navy blue and orange for quite a bit of the time. And a lot of people, even in the evening, still walking around the streets of Indianapolis in Bears uniforms.
Thinking, how was Matt Eberflus our coach?
I think drinking to forget, yeah.
Boy, yeah, the offensive line's so bad. It's just so bad, and the Colts were able to take advantage of it. You mentioned Latu. If you go back, and I think he only played in, about 40% of the snaps or so
he
yesterday.
Practiced Friday. He was a game-time decision of that hip.
No, I mean, him playing, I did not think he was going to play when we left here on Friday. And so it was a huge deal. He practiced one day, and he comes back. If you go back and just rewatch, I was sifting through the game last night. There's the play. I don't know if people remember, because especially if you're at the game, it's really difficult. But there was a play where Caleb Williams really juked Latu out. Like, Latu was going, he was going to get a sack there. Right. I mean, it was going to be a 7 or 8 yard loss, and Latu got juked out, like so bad where it's like, if I crossed over KB on if I crossed over JMV on the basketball floor, okay,
and we're gonna have to go to the basement here and test this out.
He kind of fell to the side. That's what Latu did, but he kept going. And then I'm like, I'm gonna watch this guy when he's in, and so I did feel like the amount of times the Colts got close and the amount of times that Latu got close. I felt good for him, that at the end, he was the one that made the play, right?
I feel like he kind of deserved that. And a hell of a recovery by Grover Stewart. That is amidst a lot of white shirts. He makes that recovery. Again, if you don't, get it there, obviously Chicago's they're way behind the chains, but still, that was a big, big play from Grover Stewart. Let's go to Anthony Richardson, Andy.
We have to.
To me, what stood out was not only the turnovers, poor fundamentals, poor decision-making on both of them. I think you combine that on both the picks. The misses on third down with guys wide the hell open, Pierce wide open, Downs wide open. That ball to Taylor, I think, could be put on him a little bit more there. Those are just misses that you cannot survive, and you cannot continue to have those misses. And now the question becomes this. Is it easier to teach accuracy or processing? Because I think the processing and the reads, you don't have too big of a question on. It's more of the accuracy. And how much is that teachable? For every Josh Allen out there, there are probably a dozen quarterbacks that never found that accuracy element. Everyone points to the Jalen Hurtses and the Lamar Jacksons. I'm like, well, Lamar Jackson did win a Heisman Trophy in college. Yeah. Jalen Hurts did accomplish a lot in college.
He also played 3 years in college.
Anthony Richardson is not that. And the question becomes is, through these moments, does Richardson break at all? And you watch him mentally. Hell, you watch him in that post-game locker room. He acknowledges it to a team. That was the first game Anthony Richardson has started and finished and the Colts have won. And yet in the post-game locker room, he's telling his teammates, I'll be better. Do you look at that and say, boy, I love that from my young quarterback? Or do you sit back and worry and think, damn, how is he going to be able to work through this, but mentally still have the poise that the Colts have always felt like is there? Because this stuff starts to grow and it starts to wear, and he is a 21-year-old, et cetera, et cetera. These are all the big picture moments. But just based off the 60 minutes of football yesterday, the Colts won in spite of their quarterback. He was very poor, very inaccurate in key moments. The 2 interceptions don't make up for a deep ball to Alec Pierce or finding Kylan Granson wide open or a big run or two here. You certainly need better. And right now, through 3 games, it's been a very inaccurate Anthony Richardson, and honestly, a much more inaccurate Richardson than we saw last season. Which, again, how much is that right shoulder related? The surgery, all these questions are fair to be asked right now.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 games, he's 27 of 54, 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions. I mean, that's what he is. That's what he is.
It's probably the turnovers that's the most alarming part too.
A lot of people, and I know I'm not criticizing this because I will use this. A lot of people with Anthony Richardson are like, well, the unsteady play of Anthony Richardson. And while that is true, yesterday was not that. I would say Green Bay, you could throw that in there. Yesterday, Anthony Richardson was bad. You mentioned they won in spite of their quarterback, and that is true. And the question I have isn't so much centered around, is Anthony going to break or, mentally, where is he going to be at? And I know he's probably itching now. He's going to wait a week to get out there. I know he's itching to get out there and make those wrongs right against the Pittsburgh Steelers. My question is, Shane Steichen, there's a quote that I want to get to later on in the show that, Steichen's putting a lot on himself. Right now, what does Shane Steichen feel? How much of the playbook does he feel comfortable with going forward with Anthony Richardson? I'm asking right now because I'm sorry you cannot watch these 3 games with AR and think that, some of the dynamic things that you were going to do before the season that you're going to do. I mean, they get in short yardage situations, and, you can laugh at Steichen for running Jonathan Taylor up the middle, but he's like, if I give the ball to Anthony Richardson, I don't know what's going to happen here. He is missing easy plays. He missed A.D. Mitchell for another big play, and the interceptions that he's had are just terrible. I mean, the one in the red zone, KB.
Just eat it.
Eat it. You can't. That is a losing football play.
Hit the Jumbotron, hit Blue in the back, hit Tyrese Halliburton or McAfee.
If you do that against Tomlin and Pittsburgh, you're going to lose. You just are coming up on Sunday. So I also want to get to, as we go today, we did 4 minutes. What was it, Thursday? We did 4 minutes of positivity around the Colts, and that was a fun little exercise to do. And obviously,
it's a bit of a struggle at some points, too.
And obviously, we'll do more. We'll do more today, but the biggest thing that they have going for them right now is the quarterback play that they are going to face the next 4 weeks is bad. And Justin Fields is the best of all of them, right? Coming up on Sunday, but Trevor Lawrence and the Jags are a mess. We'll see about them. I mean, Will Levis, again, Callahan's answering questions about benching Will Levis. He looked terrible yesterday. And then the Dolphins are just a complete mess at quarterback. You saw Skylar Thompson get injured. He's got a serious rib injury. I mean, they're throwing out Tim Boyle out there. So the Dolphins are finished. They are absolutely done. So in 4 weeks, you're going to face one of the worst quarterback, probably rooms in the entire NFL.
Right, Snoop Huntley in about a month.
Listen, it might be. It's Tim Boyle.
About the Colts and their injuries, too, because that final drive of the game, there was certainly some insult to that. Kenny Moore hip, Quiddy Pay quad, so we'll update you on that as the week moves along.
Are you worried at all about Anthony Richardson? You see yesterday?
Oh, sure.
I mean, there's several bad decisions.
I think I can sit here and be like, yes, you are worried about his play right here in September 2024, and at the same time, I want no part of Joe Flacco.
Right. Sure, you're right.
I can live in the short-term bubble and say, this is also
you don't want
a
Joe
little
Smooth?
bit of the bed that you've made for yourself, and you're going to have to live with it. And now it's on Shane Steichen, who gets paid millions of dollars to help in the accuracy department and all of that. And right now, again, you won in spite of your young quarterback yesterday. That's about as simplest as I can sum it up.
Yeah, so 1-2, 21-16, that's your final. Again, Zaire Franklin going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. Goat of the weekend headlines, busy show as we got you here on this wake-up call until 10 o'clock. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Coming up on the other side on your morning check down, what did Anthony Richardson say? What did Shane Steichen say? And more. We'll get your news and scores from overnight. Appreciate you hanging out with us on this Monday. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
After a team leading 15 tackles yesterday, Zaire Franklin going to join us here in a half hour. Andy Sweeney, go ahead and lead us off with a morning checkdown.
Yeah, let's lead off. Colts needed to get one. It's a bottom line business, and they got one yesterday. Boy, they needed a KB. 21-16, that's your final. What I thought one of the players of the game, Jalen Jones, cornerback, the 2 interceptions there in the win. Here's head coach Shane Steichen on his second-year corner after the game.
It's huge. Anytime you can get the takeaways, obviously you win the turnover battle, you got a good percentage of winning football games, and we did that today. We had 3 today. But Jalen, obviously being aggressive around the ball, making some big-time plays. Obviously the one on the sidelines, getting 2 feet in there was huge. The other one almost went pick 6 too, which was big. So those guys are keep grinding, you keep working, you put in the preparation week in and week out, and obviously it comes to fruition on Sundays.
Yeah, 21-16, your final. Let's go to the negative side, though. Anthony Richardson, not good. Now, back-to-back games we've talked about here on the show, guys, not good. Just 10 of 20, $167, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He had a QB rating yesterday of 39. He had a QBR rating yesterday of 17.6. Those interceptions, both of them were ugly. Here's Richardson post-game on the misses.
I don't know, man. I just got to settle down and just let the ball spin. I just got to give myself time and give myself some grace. I'm so hard on myself when I'm missing passes out there because it's like, man, like I don't want to miss any passes. Like I said, stuff like that's gonna happen, but man, I don't want them to happen. So I just got to play better.
Yeah, Colts win in spite of their young quarterback yesterday. Latu deserves some mention as well. What a huge fourth quarter strip sack to help put that game on ice. And just in general, the defense stood tall when they needed it. The goal line stand, the sudden change moments, felt like when they were thrown into kind of some short fields, things like that, they were outstanding. Chicago moved it, but they were able to certainly limit the points. 20 to 21-16. I believe I had 20 to 16.
Yeah, I think you did. I think I had 19-16.
Score prediction.
It's one of the rare times that now, Mark, you did take the Bears in a close game, right?
I did.
I'm not mistaken. That's fine.
I fell on the sword
That's
for everyone
fine.
else because I didn't want us to go all chalk.
But it's one of the only times where we actually kind of read the game right. That it was going to be kind of a first to 20
wins,
yeah,
right?
Low-scoring game, kind of an ugly game at times. Check. It was absolutely all those things yesterday.
Well, you want to talk about ugly. It was an ugly-looking eye for Caitlin Clark yesterday after she got poked in the eye early on, and there was an ugly performance after that. Really one of the worst in quite some time for the Fever, and unfortunately it comes in Game 1 of a best-of-3 series. 93-69 they lose yesterday to Connecticut. That is the fewest points they have scored since early June. Clark was 4 of 17. Andy, I told you at the start of the series, I don't like the matchup. Connecticut's got too many people they can throw at Caitlin Clark and even Kelsey Mitchell. And boy, Clark really, really struggled yesterday.
Yeah, and they were outscored, 25-12 in the fourth quarter in this game. I mean, they were in it at halftime. You thought, hey, this is going to be
down 8, I believe.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting second half. You come out, you knock down a couple shots, but they got blown out, and now I guess I should feel more confident about them coming up on Wednesday, but I got to be honest, I really don't.
It was
a bad performance
yesterday on Game 2, which again, in a best-of-3 series, they're playing to keep their season alive.
We can win. It's not anything about the building. It's not about the gym. It's not about the hoops. I have all the confidence in the world in this team, and everybody in our locker room does, and I know we'll be a lot better on Wednesday.
Caitlin Clark referencing the poor shooting last night for the Fever. 7:30, that is an ESPN tip coming up on Wednesday. A big underdog, 7.5 points. Disappointing to see Heritage Christian star Tasha Harris go down yesterday for the Sun. She was on some crutches after the game. So, again, the Fever trying to keep their season alive. If they do, it'll be a home game Friday night inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
College football over the weekend, not good for Purdue. They go on the road, Oregon State losers 38-21. Did you happen to see Hudson Card's line on this game?
It was horrific, and did he complete a ball to a receiver?
I don't know. I need to look that up. He was 7 of 17, 56 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. That's good for a QBR of 15. Welcome to reality. Apparently, reality is Corvallis. Is it Corvallis? Is that how you say it? In Oregon State. So, Purdue a mess. Indiana 52-14. I need to see Indiana face someone with a pulse at some point. And hopefully, I guess Maryland is happening. I guess that's a pulse. Do they have a
teams
pulse?
Last year that didn't have a pulse. Tom Allen needed to snap his fingers after the game after a win.
I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Again, this is a far, far cry from your older brothers or your, certainly generations IU football team here. They didn't win 4 games in 2021. They didn't win 4 games last year. They've already won 4 games this season. Again, dominant fashion. And Curtis Rourke, I mean, you want to talk about accurate. Certainly not Hudson Card. Certainly not Anthony Richardson. Certainly not Riley Leonard. Very accurate day for him.
Can I give you a
Maryland on Saturday at noon.
Can I give you a stat? There are 3 quarterbacks in college football averaging double-digit yards per pass attempt without throwing an interception through 3 weeks. Tyler Shuck of U of L, Curtis Rourke of Indiana, and Jalen Milroe of Alabama. How about that?
That doesn't give me a whole lot of optimism for my Irish this weekend taking on Louisville there. No turnovers as a whole for Indiana through 4 games. Can you imagine how many
Pretty
times
good.
they've done that in program history? Lastly, week 3 of the NFL. Who would have had the first 300-yard, 3-touchdown game of the season be Andy bleeping Dalton?
It's a bad weekend for Bryce Young. He might be on my goats of the weekend. That's a bad weekend for Bryce Young.
It's bad for the Panthers, too, because now you're costing yourself the number 1 pick. You got to win already.
That
what
is
are you doing?
bad.
Shout out to Carson Steele. Plenty of national attention. He was on the set of Sunday Night Football after the Chiefs hold on to beat the Falcons last night. 17 carries for 72 yards. And really, week 3 for me, guys, it's all about the winless teams and getting it done. Basically, every team that was winless entering, or the vast majority, I should say, of winless teams entering week 3 got their first victory of the season, and we'll see if a couple others can do that tonight. It would be the Jags and the Commanders, both heavy underdogs for tonight. Again, we got 2 games, Cincinnati hosting Washington, Buffalo hosting Jacksonville.
Yeah, I know we got to take a break, but just an absolute inexcusable loss by the San Francisco 49ers yesterday. I mean, just, you can't do that. Kyle Shanahan, you can't do that. And that's what he does. He loses games where he's up big. So the Rams got to win there. The Ravens went on the road. I tell you, the Dallas Cowboys have all sorts of issues. And there's few better things in my life than looking up there at a disgusted Jerry Jones after that loss yesterday. And I think locally for us, boy, it's too bad the Colts couldn't get a win in, one of the first 2 weeks of the season. The Texans absolutely taken to the woodshed yesterday by the Vikings, and the Vikings who are like awesome. Like, I don't know how this happened, but the Vikings are awesome.
Colts see the Vikings later this year, right?
I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. They're playing awesome football right now. I mean, they're a top 2 or 3 team in the entire league.
Are we not going to talk about it, Kevin?
Don't look now, but here come the Red
Oh, yeah, David Bell got fired. No one cares.
I was going to say, I think on a Monday after a Colts win, I think me talking about David Bell for more than 3 seconds
You
would
lead
be...
with David Bell?
Yeah.
Well, I got
saw the White Sox lose and the
I'm
Reds
sure you
fire
did.
their manager. Let's get to the Colts talk.
I will say, Eddie Garrison was like, this is the problem with the Reds. Now we got rid of the problem. I'm like, I hear this every year. Now, guess what?
More than a few.
Guess what you won't do next year with your manager? Make the playoffs.
Here comes Dusty Baker again.
Feel
Let's
pretty
try
good.
him out.
The positives and sloppy play from yesterday. I wanted to hit on a couple things with that. We'll keep the Colts conversation going. Reminder, Zaire Franklin at 8 o'clock, and then we'll take some calls, 239-1070. So a busy show here on this Monday wake-up call. It's a Reaction Monday right here on The Fan.
Fresh off the Colts' first win of the season, 15 tackles yesterday for Zaire Franklin. He's going to join us here in about 15 minutes. Couple plays to note from yesterday. We mentioned earlier the Hail Mary. What a tackle by E.J. Speed and Julian Blackman on that play. Tyler Goodson, a sprained finger in the post-game locker room. That would seem to indicate he did get a hand on the punt attempt. I don't know if I'm more amazed that, is it Troy Taylor, Mark, the Bears punter?
Tory Taylor.
Tory Taylor, is that the Iowa kid?
Yes, the Australian guy.
That he kicked it 62 yards with Tyler Goodson seemingly get a finger on it, and that the refs did not overturn that.
Yeah, they didn't see it. That was a tough one.
Now, the Colts did get a pick on the very next play, so, it didn't end up mattering there. And then shout out to a Luke Rhodes quick little abrupt head snap. Remember the offsides on the punt attempt by the Bears?
It was one of the biggest plays of the game.
It was 7-3 at that point.
Oh, no, that was a huge play.
Huge play there late in the third quarter there. So a couple of wild special teams moments. Not sure why Anthony Gould did not take that last kickoff out of the end zone, gave the Bears a 2-minute warning that could have potentially mattered until Jonathan Taylor ended up icing the game there. So some, again, entertainingly ugly football is how I would describe it. And that's what we witnessed yesterday.
I thought the Hail Mary, that's one of those that it's no, like, if he catches that in the end zone and goes into the end zone and the Bears score that, I don't feel like that's anyone's fault on the Colts. They did the right thing. You're supposed to knock the ball down, but they happen to knock it right into the breadbasket of a receiver.
Most teams are starting to do that, and it makes sense. You almost keep a pass catcher, in back of the play.
Right.
Expecting the tip to happen. Yeah, Jalen Jones got his hand on it. He batted it theoretically down, I guess. And, that's where DJ Moore was there. So, yeah, that would have been a disastrous finish to the opening half.
Did Shane Steichen, was he asked about Anthony Gould after the game?
Who's not, no.
I need to know whose fault that was. I thought it was one of the more brain-dead, low football IQ plays that I've seen in quite a while. I mean, that's one of those plays, again, for people that don't know, there's 2:01 on the clock, and they kicked the ball, the Bears did. They scored. They kicked the ball into the end zone because they wasted their timeouts on nothing, because that's what Matt Eberflus does. And they kicked the ball, and it was about 4 or 5 yards deep in the end zone. And if Anthony Gould brings that out, it goes to the other side of the 2-minute warning, and Chicago only has one timeout. But by stopping there, you basically gave Chicago, not basically, you gave them a second timeout there. So I'm interested today when Shane Steichen meets with the media gas bag, the horde that will be over there for Shane Steichen. I'm interested now looking back at the film. Is that something they learned? Is that something they didn't have on their radar? Is that something they didn't talk about? Is that something they did talk about and Anthony Gould simply didn't do it? Do they know the rules there? I'm interested because, again, against better teams, these little plays matter. And that was more than a little play. If Chicago had much more of a competent offense, that could have went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it was equally as stupid as Matt Eberflus taking a timeout to decide they needed to go for 2.
Oh, it's just so bad.
Mark, Eberflus
so
stinks,
bad.
man.
He does stink.
People didn't want him back after last season, and
they were right.
Like what we had Mark Silverman on. He said his hot seat is at an 8 and Ryan Poles is at a 1, maybe. I mean, I don't see how that could be after, you're just doing nothing. 83 plays you ran offensively, and you got 16 points, some of which you didn't get to the last couple minutes of the game. I mean, it's so bad.
Again, Chicago moved it yesterday. If you look at it, they had 7 drives on the Colts side of the field, but only 16 points. If you want to look at that stat from the Colts side of it, the Colts had only 5 drives on Chicago's side of the field, yet converted those into 21 points. So, again, finishing off drives and those scoring opportunities, I don't think the Colts defense was flawless by any means. But yet, when they needed timely playmaking, whether it was the goal line stand, and that goal line stand, I mean, that started at the 4-yard line. It's not like it was first and goal at the 10 and whatever. They get 6 and then they get 2. I mean, this was from the 4, the 2, the 1, and the 1 there. You thought Chicago should have kicked a field goal there?
I did. And it's easy to say that when you see the play call. I guess my rationale was, you know it's going to be a close game. It's a low-scoring game. At that point, you had to feel good about your defense. You had to feel pretty good about your defense. Anthony Richardson right now, if you're a defensive coach for the Bears on the sideline, you got to look at AR and you have to think, this guy's not really scaring us. And I don't know, just to get points on the board, To me, you're a low-scoring team. You run a sweep where your entire offensive line is laying down. To me, that's just an absolute mess. I thought the Bears were a sloppy team. Can I give you one thing that did bother me with the Colts yesterday? And again, I want to give you a positive here in a second, but this bothered me, and it goes back to the Anthony Gould discussion as well. The two things, and they got to be killing Shane Steichen, and it's an Anthony Richardson thing, or at least it's partially an Anthony Richardson thing. If you are a believer, and I'm not saying the Colts go out, and KB, you may know this, and they script the first drive. A lot of teams do that. That's very much a college thing. You'll see a college team go down and score in the first possession, and then when the game settles in, things become much more difficult. The first possession of the game, you've had all week for this possession. You want to get out. Shane Steichen talked about it in multiple press conferences. We want to get out to a quick start, okay? You practice all week. You have a man downfield for a penalty. You have a drop. It's a heated throw, but you have a drop by Josh Downs, and then you have a complete missed throw by Anthony Richardson. That's number one. Number two, you then come out of halftime with the ball, right? You come out of halftime with the ball, and Anthony Richardson on the first play, 1st and 10, airmails it, what was it, to Michael Pittman Jr., I believe?
Yeah.
And he airmails and throws an interception. And those are the types of plays, and he's not going to ever say it publicly. Those are the two types of possessions that got to be killing Shane Steichen, because they're focused things, beginning of a game, beginning of a half, that they're locked in on, that they're focused on, and you come out and both possessions were just so poorly executed. That just cannot happen.
Yeah, again, both interceptions. For me, the first one, I know Shane tried to fall on the sword there post-game, but that is one where Anthony Richardson has got to know time and score and realize precious points. It's 3rd and goal. Don't be a hero. Throw it in the stands. Again, hit the Jumbotron, whatever you need to do. Eat the sack. A sack would have been fine there. Okay,
sure.
Matt Gay, instead of kicking a
would have been fine.
20-yard field goal, kicks a 30-yard field goal. Who cares? And then obviously the first play, like you just said there, the second half, back foot. That looked, when you watch the replay, it looks like he was trying to throw to the Bears defender. Michael Pittman Jr. is trying to play defense, frankly, there. And I thought he had some open turf there. Again, 1st and 10, first play of the third quarter. Either it has to be more on target or, whatever. Scramble for 6 or 7. Live to see another play. Wide receiver snaps, by the way. You brought up Josh Downs, his debut. Pittman played 47 of 56. Pierce, 43. Downs, 32. Ashton Doolin, 14. A.D. Mitchell, just 7 snaps. So 7
he vanished.
of 56 for the rookie out of Texas.
Yeah, that's not too surprising. They tried to get the ball to him again. Again, another miscommunication with him and Anthony Richardson. Let me give the positive side on all this. And I know I've said it. Yeah, I said it 50 minutes ago, and I'll stick with it. It is a bottom line business, and there were some teams that got some ugly wins, and that's what you do in the NFL. You move on. Hell, Mike Tomlin's made a career of having these low-scoring, ugly wins, and maybe that's a little bit more of what they're going to have to do. Run the football. Right now, you can't drop back and think that Anthony Richardson is going to make is going to put it on somebody. You mentioned, is it decision-making? Is it accuracy? But the Steelers coming to town, listen, I think a lot of the Steelers for the most part. I think that defense, they have the best defensive player in the entire NFL. I guess Fields is good enough, but the reason I bring that up, offensively, if you're looking at the strength of this team, running the ball for the Colts and defense, you have the Steelers, Jags, you have Will Levis, and then whatever is left, it might be Tim Boyle, might be what's left of the Miami Dolphins. So the schedule's going to get really difficult late October, but from now until mid-October, KB, they're winnable games on this schedule. They're absolute winnable games on this schedule.
Boy, that rushing offense, outstanding. That has been easily the best thing for this team here through the first 3 weeks. Jonathan Taylor, patience, vision, that extra gear. He looks like his old self.
He looks good.
And at times, we probably didn't see that enough last season, even when he was playing. I think that's probably the element. What do you feel the best about this Colts team through 3 weeks? What's been the most consistent item? Taylor and that offensive line looking like vintage Taylor and the Colts O-line.
Yeah, you watch a Colts offensive line, then you look at the Bears, it ain't the same. Let's take a break. Coming up, top of the hour, Zaire Franklin. He led the team in tackles yesterday. I'm sure he's got something to say about the win. We'll get to Zaire Franklin. We'll do it next here. Wake Up Call, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Well, it was a hell of an afternoon and a very active afternoon for our next guest, a team leading 15 tackles, I would argue. None bigger, maybe more in a highlight reel sense than the 4th and goal to seal that goal line stand late in the first half. He is the captain of the Colts defense. He is Zaire Franklin. He joins us here on this Monday morning. Zaire, congrats on the W. Thank you for the time here on this Monday morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning. Appreciate you guys having me on.
We appreciate you joining us. That is 90 defensive snaps for you. I don't know if you know this, but that ties a career high. What is a 90-snap Monday morning recovery like for yourself?
Well, I definitely earned a little bit of the sleep in from the wife, so, good for me. And then, just typical morning. It's weird. It was 90 snaps. It didn't feel like it, though. Felt better than it did the last couple weeks.
Zaire Franklin with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Zaire, you guys need one to kind of get things going. That was the message yesterday in the locker room. The win yesterday, how much juice, what kind of juice should this give you guys going forward, not only for next week, but the next month or so maybe?
Oh, man, it felt great. The fans at Lucas Oil, man, they've just been great. They've just been so supportive. They've been loud. They've been, just turned up for us. So it felt great to get that win back at home, just to get that rolling. I know we know the NFL, a lot of it is just about momentum. So now we finally got one on the right side of it. Hopefully we can build on it on Sunday against Pittsburgh.
Zaire, if you don't mind, walk us through the 4th and goal and the speed option. When did you feel like, it seemed like you just read it unbelievably. When did you know that was the look they were going to there? And what was kind of the chatter in the huddle on that drive and them still deciding to go for it 16, 17 plays into it?
So, they had tried to pretty much just pound it in via the A-gap 2 or 3 times in a row, and it's just, we stressed all week, we talked about drawing the line in the sand, drawing the line in the dirt, and not letting them cross it. And, I think that was something that, we really believed in. So after we stopped them 3 times, I've been in the league long enough to know that they're not going to do it a 4th time. They're going to do something different. When they switched running backs, I knew I'm like, okay, well, DeAndre Swift, he's an outside type of running back. He's not going to run in the A-gap. So, once they hopped in the pistol, I knew it was going to be some type of perimeter run. As soon as he went to the flat, I just shot it. I just wanted to make sure I cut him off so the boys could rally and we could get him down.
You've fielded many questions these last 2 weeks about your guys' run defense. If you could, what have those film sessions been like coming into Sunday in watching your guys' effort against the run in weeks 1 and 2?
Yeah, it was tough. The hard truth is that we just wasn't good enough. That's across the board, and, that starts with myself. So, I think the first step of that is just being honest with yourself about, how you've been playing and just making steps to move forward. So definitely some uncomfortable conversations being had on our side of the ball throughout the building. But it was good to see the boys respond yesterday.
Zaire Franklin with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Schematically, what did you guys do different yesterday? TV said maybe you're playing 3 linebackers at times, more linebackers. Did you do something different yesterday than maybe week 1 and week 2?
What I would say, I think we just went in with an initial focus of, we're not going to let these guys run the ball on us. I think in the previous weeks, right or wrong, we were kind of looking at, trying to stop a couple of different things. This time we kind of understood no one coming in. They was going to run the ball. I think we did a good job. Playing 3 linebackers definitely helps out sometimes too, but I just really think it was just the mentality that we brought, truthfully, that, they just wasn't going to move the ball on the ground.
And then in the 4th quarter, Zaire Latu, he gets the strip sack. We've been waiting to see, he's a dynamic player. We've been waiting to see that, and he helped shut the door on the Bears yesterday. What did you see with that play, and what were your conversations with him after that big sack?
Oh, man, Latu, just happy for him. I know he's been hunting. I know he's been close. And that's just the type of player he is. That's just what he brings to the game. That's why they brought him in. You know what I mean? Just to, when you know it's a pass, go make a big play. And he's a hell of a player, first of many I just had to make sure he celebrated with the TV the right way. You know, when you're a young guy,
you had to remind him of that, didn't you?
Yeah, he just wanted to do jumping jacks and jump around. I'm like, nah, look, go ahead, this your moment. Go ahead, turn up with the fans. Go ahead with the camera. So, definitely love the young lot too. But like I said, it's first of very many.
Boy, what a huge play that was and helping slam the door shut. Zaire Franklin, again, team high 15 tackles, 90 defensive snaps yesterday for the captain. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. If I'm not mistaken, you were the first 3-year captain at Syracuse in 100-some years. So when I'm watching you, what I think is intentionally go off sides at one point in the game, I'm thinking that is not a dumb football player doing that. What was that? Could you explain that for our audience?
Yeah, so, it's a situation that we talk about a lot. They're inside the 5-yard line. They just got a big play. Most good offenses, once they got you on your heels, they go tempo, they try to get going. I heard over the headset us trying to switch personnel to our goal line personnel, the one that we had to stop previously in the game. And I was good, but quite honestly, I wasn't sure if everybody was going to be lined up, if everybody was ready. So, what's the difference between, 3 yards and, 2 or 1.5. So just trying to, knowing that taking that penalty intentionally will at least allow us to set up and be able to play, actual defense and not just give them a freebie because they caught us lacking. So, credit to Coach Shane and Gus just, for us talking through those type of situations.
Again, number 44, Zaire Franklin with us here on this Monday morning. I want to go back some comments earlier in the week. It didn't appear to be too much love lost between you and perhaps the head coach on the opposing sideline. Was this circled on the calendar a little bit more, given that it was Matt Eberflus?
Oh, me for sure. I just hope I speak for everyone out there who's ever had a boss or a supervisor or a coach that you may have not felt like believed in you or may have not, trusted you to be the type of player or type of person or, whatever organization you're in that you knew you could be. So, definitely good to see out there. But, there's a lot of people on that staff that I got a lot of love for. Dave Borgonzi, fellow Syracuse grad, that's my guy. It was definitely great to see him and a handful of others. So, but again, I had to be honest with you, it was one of those things where I had to realize, like, the game is it isn't about him. It's about me. It's about what I accomplished. It's about what I was able to persevere through. And it was about trying to help my team, lead my team to a victory. So I'm just glad we got the win, and I was glad I was able to put a performance that not only that I could be proud of, but the fans could be proud of as well.
15 tackles yesterday. Zaire Franklin, the captain, joining us here on the Wake Up Call on the Fan on this Reaction Monday. I think you guys were quoted, after some of the interceptions and tough plays, AR would come to the sideline and he would go right to the defense. Hey, I know I got, basically telling you guys, hey, I know I got to go make that one up. What are those conversations when Anthony makes a mistake, has an interception, then comes and faces the music with the defense? What are those conversations like?
Look, he's not the only one that'll do that. If we, when we play in Houston and, we're giving up touchdowns, we gave up a long drive, and then he just goes answers right back. It's just like, look, I'm trying to, it's me pleading with him. Like, look, man, I'm going to give you the ball right back. Trust me. And then, we went out there and let up another 14-play drive. So, obviously he's a young player, but, the game means so much to him, and, his teammates mean so much to him. So, he just sometimes when, things may not be, going the best way, he feels like, he wants to make sure that we're, he's holding himself accountable to it. I just tell him to keep going, man. We trust him undoubtedly. So, we understand that, there may be highs and lows. It's only so many, career starts since high school. So I understand what comes with that. But as long as you see somebody, that puts the work in every single day in the building, that cares about their sport and that, is willing to go to war for you and with you about anything, you're able to live with mistakes. And I think that's a part of the team game. I told him last night, I said, listen, there's going to be games where, you played bad and we had to win defensively, and there's going to be other games where like Houston, we should have won that game, but we couldn't really, we wasn't really getting that many stops, but you were going, blow for blow with, a high-powered offense. So.
Zaire, we'll end with this, and I kind of go back to, like, what we started the interview with. I think fans maybe don't realize kind of what the day after a game is like for you. We mentioned career high in defensive snaps with 90. What does a Monday look like for you in terms of recovery and I guess kind of dissecting the film / any look ahead to Pittsburgh?
For me, everything usually starts with, just getting my body right, kind of doing some self-inventory. To be honest with you, sometimes I don't even know what hurts until I try to go lift. And then I realize, like, oh, damn, when my ribs hurt, you know what I mean? So, that type of thing. And then, just, going back and just sitting in the film room and, talking, the good and the bad. We can't, get too high off of a victory, the same way we couldn't get too low off of a loss. So, just making sure that everybody understands that, it's a marathon and, yes, winning feels good, but there was a price that we paid last week to win, and I think we got to pay that price again to win on Sunday.
Well, Zaire, congrats on the W. Best to the fam. Hope Cairo is doing well, and we'll be looking forward to Week 4.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
That's Zaire Franklin right there. Payless Liquors Hotline, 15 tackles, 90 defensive snaps. Again, that is a big, big number, but yet you look at the final score, it's 16. Just to put that into context, they had 90 snaps as a defense a few years ago in that historic comeback by the Vikings. The Vikings scored well over 30 in that game. So those moments, the goal line stand, the sudden change, yeah, they're out there for a ton of snaps, but they were able to hold Chicago off the board a whole lot there. So, and certainly one that, again, as we talked about last week, a little more of a Sharpie around the Week 3 matchup for Zaire Franklin.
Well, and he played well, didn't he?
And
he played great.
And you had
talking about
Eberflus as your leading tacklers. Run defense-wise, Andy, something I had to give in this one, 63 yards on 28 carries. The Colts certainly won that matchup.
I will say this. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's never perfect. I think he had a penalty yesterday, but I think Nick Cross has played some solid football for this team.
Yes. Yep.
When he won the battle, I say won the battle, I never felt like Rodney Thomas was going to win that battle in training camp. And by the way, it was funny yesterday. If the Colts would have lost that game, and if the secondary would have been a huge problem in that game, did you see who got an interception on Patrick Mahomes for like the 5th straight game?
Justin Simmons.
Yeah. I saw that go, thank God I'm not going to have to talk about that tomorrow. But, they didn't, for one day, Chris Ballard and the Jonathan Taylor and the offensive line combined with a guy like Jalen Jones, a guy like Zaire Franklin, who we had on just a second ago, and Nick Cross, they played good football. I think Nick Cross has played better football than I thought he would play, quite frankly.
We talked about those 4 boxes that Chris Ballard is banking on the secondary. I think through 3 games, you do give him a hat tip in the Nick Cross side of it. When you go back to that Jalen Jones second interception, it'll go to, and what a play by Jones, athleticism-wise. You see the 5-star high school wideout in Jalen Jones's background. But how about Nick Cross challenging that play? I forget who it was intended for, Dunze or Moore or one of those two. But Nick Cross, he makes the pass breakup that allows Jalen Jones to come down with it. So, yeah, I thought Cross, and again, with Cross and Jalen Jones, again, when you're playing 90 snaps, it's not going to be perfect forever. But that's why the playmaking is so key. When you can have those moments where you take a field goal off the board. Again, they caught a huge break on what was a tip punt that wasn't called a tip punt there, so the penalty stood. They got new life. When you make that play right away, you can live with being on the field for as long as they were, and obviously Latu slamming the door shut. But as I said briefly there, what indicates better run defense? I think when you look at the stat sheet afterwards, Andy, and your 2 leading tacklers are your linebackers.
Right.
Franklin with 15.
Yep.
Speed with 12. Then you get to Cross. Then you get to those guys in the secondary. And that's on a day when Caleb Williams chucked it 52 times. That's not a number I don't think Chicago wants.
Well, we talked about it before the game. What number did I give it? He needed to throw the ball like 27 times in a game. He threw the ball over 50 times. Dude, he's not going to make it through that season. He is not going to make it. I mean, he snaps the ball, and he is having to do magic tricks for 8 seconds before he Like, they were getting on him on the TV broadcast when he had an overthrow deep. I'm like, well, he just ran 30 yards.
He had some of the best incompletions I've ever seen.
He just ran 30 yards with 4 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers on his ass, basically. And yes, he missed he's throwing across his body on the run, falling out of bounds. Yes, he happens to miss a wide receiver.
Yeah, he had some of the best throwaways. I'm shocked SportsCenter didn't lead off with that.
What about your guy, Cole Kmet? Look at that.
He's a good football player.
That's got to be one of his better games, doesn't it?
But him against Latu was not the matchup.
I can't believe they left him like that. Latu got it done.
But again, I'll go back to what I said about Latu earlier. That's why you draft him, Andy, in that is a first down, probably a max protect. I'd have to go back and watch. Chicago certainly kept at least one tight end. They might have kept 2 in there. It's a 4-man rush. I mean, the Colts aren't trying to necessarily blitz Caleb Williams there or get to him. I mean, it's a first down play where they're probably thinking in the back of their minds, hey, they might take a shot here. But yet, as Williams drops back and hits that 5th, 7th step, there's Latu right there to make the play. And it's not only the sack. I mean, think about that. That's his first NFL sack. He still has the wherewithal of saying, oh, wow, I have a chance to not only make the sack, but jar the ball loose. And again, a major credit to the big fella. Grover Stewart gets on that football there. I mean, that was amidst a lot of white jerseys, and Grover pounces on that ball, and that was it. I mean, that is a vintage Mathis Freeney slam the door shut of a victory moment. It's exactly why you drafted him. 4-man rush, don't need to do a whole lot of extra blitzing. Can you just win? And he got a tight end matchup, and he roasted him.
Yeah, he did. Sorry, I'm reading through my notes on the game. Do you take notes during the game?
Sure.
I'm just reading through my notes. Do we blame? I made a note here. Do you blame Jonathan Taylor for the dropped pass?
I said to Mike
early
Chappell,
in the third quarter. What do you do? He came back and got one, but I thought it was a bad pass by Anthony Richardson.
I said to Mike Chappell, 55% on Richardson, 45 on Taylor.
Okay, that's probably fair. I'm fine with that. I'd be around 50-50 myself.
Maybe I'm being a little too harsh on Taylor there. You know, it kind of fingertips.
He had to reach out quite a bit.
Yeah, maybe it's a 60-40, 70-30. I mean, Richardson had some egregious misses. I wouldn't call that like when he airmails Pierce. He almost hit Eberflus on missing Josh Downs on the one.
Zaire might have liked that one.
Yeah, was Eberflus paying attention? Would it hit him in the stomach or what?
Bears fans might have liked that. Zaire might have liked that. And that's, I guess, where I walk out of this with Richardson, Andy, is like, it's not just hit the layups. Like, I know everyone says that, but he also had 2 huge turnovers. And you want to talk about a fortunate play? How about them blowing that fumble dead? Richardson was still trying to keep that play alive.
It was a terrible call. They went the Colts' way. It was
terrible call.
And to call it what they called it, to not give yourself an out to be able to go to the review system. Again, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm absolutely heated over that one.
Huge play early in the
1000%.
game. So if you look at the last 2 games, he's turned it over 5 times. He put the ball in the turf twice in Green Bay, and I would call the one yesterday. That's 8 turnover-worthy plays. And 5 of them have ended in turnover. So as much as we want to sit here and say it's just a layup, it's just a right-handed layup.
That's not it.
No need to backboard slap it. Just simply lay it in. No. There are other plays that, again, I would label the first one, poor decision, 3rd and goal. Shane Steichen tries to fall on the sword. No. Your quarterback needs to know time and score there.
I want to get to that here in a second.
Needs to know 3rd and goal, you eat it. And then, as you brought up, the first play of the 3rd quarter, you go back and watch that play. It almost looks like Chicago's fielding a punt and Michael Pittman Jr. is the gunner. It looked that far off. Like, if you go back and watch it, by the time the ball lands, was it Jalen Johnson?
It was.
By the time Jalen Johnson catches it, Michael Pittman Jr.'s back is turned to Richardson. Like, it looks like he's a gunner. It looks like he's Ashton Doolin.
Right.
Going down there to make a tackle.
It was bad.
That one did look like, I was right there where that one happened, and it looked like he just threw it directly to Jalen Johnson.
Basket caught it.
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson basket caught it.
Again, Mark Dykton went from 0 tickets on Friday to all the tickets in the world for the Colts and Bears on Sunday. So hopefully
tickets, just walking around. You want some?
No. Anyone want a ticket? I'll get you a ticket. Let's play that. Play clip 1, Mark. Here's Steichen on the Anthony Richardson red zone interception, that 3rd down that KB was just talking about.
I'll take that one. They played cover 2 there, and we're trying to get man down there. We're in big personnel. They played a shell defense. There was nothing open. That's all.
All right, so
Sure.
So it sounds like you agree with what I was just going to say. Go ahead.
Sure,
No.
there's nothing open, but again, that is where your quarterback, and maybe a little bit is on Shane, where Shane needs to say, as he makes that call in the headset, remind him, precious points, 3rd and goal. If we don't get the look, hit Pat McAfee.
Throw it to Pat McAfee.
And Tyrese Halliburton in that suite right there. I mean, like, maybe that reminder's needed, but boy, that was hero ball. And, for the most part, I don't think we get a lot of heroic type attempts from Richardson. I don't feel like he does that, but that was certainly one of them there. And that was, that was early on in the game when points were super precious. I mean, points ended up being obviously the under hit there, but still, I mean, that was one where I circled it thinking, boy, that could be very, very costly.
I think what you said is key, KB, and give me a second here, because and we'll get to a morning check down, we'll get to our goats of the weekend coming up here in about 10 or 11 minutes. After game 1, it felt like, and if you go back to just game 1 against Houston, let me go back here. If you go back to game 1 against Houston, he left there with a QB rating above 100. His QBR was like 89 in that game, which are all fantastic numbers. I know he's only 9 of 19, but it felt like, coming from the Houston game, that he just needed to hit his layups. That it was, when Josh Downs comes back, you'll be able to get Downs a couple. You'll eventually get Pittman a couple. And it felt like, okay, the big stuff is there, and now it's time to work on the intermediate stuff. And the last 2 games have not been that. The last 2 games, especially on Sunday, those 2 interceptions and the fumble that got called back, which we just talked about, KB, those are losing plays. And, Anthony Richardson, it's going to be shielded a little bit from him because they won. He was bad. I mean, he was like Will Levis bad. Like, we're making fun of other quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson, thus far this season, but specifically the last couple games, has been careless. And the plays that he's making have been losing type plays. And I say this, and I it's so easy before the season with a young quarterback or even a young team to say, this is about development and there's going to be up and downs. And then you get in the middle of it and you have seen some ups, but you have seen some more downs. And I haven't lost confidence in, I'm trying to think of how I even want to say this. I don't think I've lost confidence in Anthony Richardson. But I wonder at what point does Shane Steichen change up his playbook, because going straight passing the football with AR is not working. And if this continues, they're going to lose games to good teams, and they're going to lose and drop a game or two to probably a team or two they shouldn't, just simply because of AR. He has to be better. Those 2 interceptions, the execution at the beginning of the second half, the execution at the beginning of the game, boy, it's got to get better. It can't be this bad.
2 things on Richardson. Go back to the quote at the start of the year. Can you run an effective offense while keeping him healthy? That, I think, is a very real question. He's played every snap this season. 3 games, every single snap. But again, have you run an effective offense? No. Not even close. So
and they haven't ran him effectively either,
right,
on top of all of that.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
When they have ran him, he has been an effective runner.
He's been okay. Yeah, he's been fine.
His yards per carry's got to be...
It's 6.
Pretty.
Yesterday brought it down. Yesterday brought it down quite a bit.
You would certainly sign up for that. But again, it's how much can you do that while maintaining his health? And the other question would be, and I think this is the realer one as we start to project him moving forward, and probably a conversation for later in the week, the accuracy is a far cry from last year. The turnovers are a far cry from last year, both in the negative category. Completion percentage, much, much lower. Interceptions, much, much higher from last season. So, again, as we start to build a grander sample size on Richardson, and it's not just 6 starts, and 6 starts turn into 10, turn into 12, turn into 14, those steps backward need to start to flip. Can you now start to trend in a different direction? Because right now, it's backwards. If you want to base it off of the only sample size we have to go off of, which are 6 NFL starts. Right now, it's backwards. And I think what is worrisome as well is, so far, the pockets have been really, really clean. And I think that's why you hear Shane Steichen go as far as Shane goes post-game and says, we've got stuff to clean up. In Shane's words, this is not good right now for our quarterback. We've got to get that better. Anthony Richardson felt the need in front of his whole team yesterday to say, I need to be better in that post-game locker room. He's right. Like, I mean, and all of that you obviously love, but can he maintain the mental fortitude while going through this? That's where a lot of young quarterbacks just cripple and can't recover. Can Richardson do that? Because that's a huge, obviously Peyton Manning is the poster child of going through 3-13,
right? Going
through 30 rookie interceptions, however many he threw.
He is.
And yet was able to recover. A whole lot of QBs don't do that.
No, I think you're looking at a guy like Will Levis. I think he's going to crumble. I don't think mentally he's going to be able to handle what's going on there. I want to go back to that Shane Steichen clip where he puts it on him. Can I go a Sunday or can we go a press conference without that being the case? Well, no. What's the problem if he says AR can't make that play?
Yeah,
it's not Shane's wire. It's not bashing. I know it's not bashing your quarterback, and not like
he's not Antonio Pierce.
No, he's not Brian. Oh, so yeah, Antonio Pierce went nuts on his team yesterday, and he should have. They got ran out of the building. But even like what Brian Callahan, he comes out in Tennessee and he's dealing with a different player in Will Levis, but one that is struggling, that is making losing plays and turning the football over like Anthony Richardson has the last couple weeks. And he comes out, he came out last week and said, listen, Levis knows. We talked all week about making, where he's throwing these underhand plays that end up being pick sixes, to not make that type of play. I guess I'm fine if at some point in the maturity, there has to be the kid gloves come off, and it's okay to say in a press conference, in my opinion, that, AR knows, it's a press conference, it's a 6-second soundbite, it's not a big deal, but AR knows he can't do that. We've taught him he can't do that. He's got to be better in that situation. We got to get points in that situation. I think the other thing...
I don't think Shane would publicly criticize the worst human in the world if he was on the Colts.
I am totally with you. And to a certain point, it's like, your words are meaning a lot less to me because this is the game of football. Your quarterback doesn't need to be pampered this much.
Yeah, some are Rick Carlisle, where he's going to toe the line a little bit more, and some are Shane Steichen.
I think short yardage is where it's difficult too for Steichen, because some of these 3rd and 3s, it's like he can draw up something, but he draws something up and Jonathan Taylor drops the ball, or he draws something up and Anthony Richardson airmails it. So then he'll go to like just an easy inside draw, an inside run to Jonathan Taylor. And it's a 3rd and 4th down, and it doesn't pick it up. And you're like, well, why is Shane Steichen, who's so creative, why is he not being creative? It's like, well, he's tried to be creative early in the game, and AR is missing that throw, or a guy drops the pass, which we saw with Josh Downs and Jonathan Taylor both earlier in the game. So I don't know. Again, it's a victory Monday, but this season about wins and losses is also about the maturation of Anthony Richardson. And I have to say, the last couple games, he has been worse than maybe I thought he would be in back-to-back games.
Yeah, I would say, again, if we want to combine last season and this season, what are we, 6 games into it, 7 games into it? The line on the graph, it's starting to go down.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty of it is he's got theoretically 14 more games this season to change that line. The line on September 23rd is certainly not the line that matters in the long term of his career. And that is, we're evaluating him right here in this sample size. But again, we are barely at the halfway point of his rookie season. He's got plenty of time to improve. Now the question becomes, can you improve accuracy? And that is a question that you will get a wild amount of opinions on. And we'll see how it plays out here over the next 3 months, and obviously years beyond this.
You want to get to a morning check down?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. All right, let's get there. Let's start there. Anthony Richardson and company. The Colts did get the win. They needed to. 1-2 on the season. 21-16 your final yesterday in Lucas Oil. Post-game, here's Shane Steichen on his impression of his young quarterback.
I think he can create the big plays for us for sure. Obviously, a young player, stuff to clean up. I can do a better job helping him on certain things, but long season ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to the progress each and every week.
Again, AR just 10 of 20, $167, no touchdowns, had the 2 interceptions. Leatu Latu was working his ass off, I thought, yesterday, even though he was in about 40% of the snaps. Reminder, going back, didn't practice all week, only 1 day of practice did Latu get in. It didn't matter. He had the strip sack, and he talked about it post-game.
Honestly, I just remember when Quiddy had told me I get that look to attack a certain person, and, like, I did that, won the edge, and then, shoot, I just seen, Caleb right there about to throw it, and I went for the ball.
UCLA on USC crime right there. Latu did it to him in college and did it to him on the biggest stage here on Sunday. Again, a four-man rush. Latu whips Cole Kmet, a huge strip sack. Grover Stewart on that recovery. Certainly a couple other shout-outs. Jalen Jones, some key playmaking amidst, an up-and-down day. Nick Cross, I thought, played pretty well again. And Jonathan Taylor. He looks spry. He looks like his old self to me, and that is huge for the Colts here moving forward. The undefeated Steelers, they have won in very small margins this season. Defense outstanding. Offense has done enough here. That will be inside of Lucas Oil Stadium coming up Sunday at 1 o'clock. All right, yesterday out in Connecticut, it was a decent start for the Fever and then really got away from them in the second half. Their worst performance offensively, certainly, in many, many months, probably 3.5 months you got to go back to. 93-69, they lose game one. And again, this is best of 3. So they will literally play to keep their season alive coming up Wednesday night in Connecticut. If for some reason they do get that done, then Friday at Gamebridge Fieldhouse would be the winner-take-all best of 3, game 3 format here in round 1. So again, very ugly offensively yesterday. Did we get a crap from Caitlin Clark? Is that what we got? She was 4 of 17 from the floor.
Not a crap.
Here was the WNBA Rookie of the Year last night.
Coach said in the locker room, like, we were down 3 the first quarter, down 5 second quarter, and then lost by 3 in the third. Like, we were right there, and I felt like we just played a crappy game. Like, the flow of the game was really bad. I don't know if that was the reffing. It was probably partly us because we struggled to get stops at times, but also, like, the clock getting messed up. It was just one thing after the next.
4 of 17 for Caitlin Clark. Was worried about this defensive matchup. They threw Tawana Bonner at her, a very long defender. That certainly seemed to rattle her. She did get poked in the eye early in the game.
It's the last time you had a shiner. I can't even remember the last time I had a shiner.
Yeah, actually, I think Maddie got one from one of the kids.
Hit her with a toy or kicked her in the face or something like that.
But yeah, that was quite the shiner post game from Caitlin Clark there. So again, 7:30 Wednesday night, trying to keep their season alive.
Problem with a shiner, you got to explain to everyone why you got a shiner.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make up a story instead of just being punched in the face.
Well, Caitlin Clark has plenty of evidence from yesterday afternoon.
She has all the evidence. Notre Dame winners, IU winners. Purdue threw for 56 yards. They were losers over the weekend. Anything else stand out from you, college or NFL, over the weekend?
How about the Hail Mary for Dion and company?
They would have been, what, 1-3 on the season?
Travis Hunter's your Heisman winner, right? I mean, he's the best player in college football.
He's the best player, Will he get injured at some point?
Well,
that
right
would be
here,
the
right
worry.
now, he's the best player.
Right here, right now, I would have him as my Heisman Trophy winner. I'm trying to think of like a group of quarterbacks that I love that I would throw up there. Right now, I'm not in love with too many players for Heisman. I got to be honest.
If you are a man or woman that believe in prayer and have room on your prayer list, just pray for college kickers.
Oh, no, what happened?
I say it every year.
Yeah, well.
Did you watch Missouri and Vanderbilt?
Oh, boy.
Just pray for college kickers.
Missouri's had a couple weeks where they're trying to give their season away. They're trying to lose their season in September by losing to Vanderbilt.
There's no worse job in America than being a college kicker.
Yeah, you're probably right.
The one time you make the game winner and girls are talking to you that have never even looked at you before,
right?
I don't think it's worth it.
You don't think it's worth it?
No, because then as soon as you miss one, the death threats come in.
Well, a lot of these NFL
I mean, the Vanderbilt. Do you see how far left the Vanderbilt kid missed the kick?
I know. It still hasn't come down yet. I know. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. I'm surprised. I tell you what.
Arch Manning a little up and down in the.
Yeah, he had a couple interceptions
in the debut.
Yeah, he had a couple interceptions. So,
lastly, for me, week 3 in the NFL, we've seen some weird undefeated teams. Yes, the Chiefs did get it done last night. Carson Steele had a really nice night running the football. Got on set there. Sunday Night Football there after the game. 17 carries for 72 yards. Your undefeated teams: Vikings, Steelers, Seahawks, and Chiefs. Those are your 3-0. We'll see if the Bills can get there tonight. Again, we'll get the doubleheader on Monday night. Bengals hosting Commanders, your LSU Heisman winners there, and Burrow and Jaden Daniels, and then the Bills hosting the Jags tonight.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. Again, 7:30 and 8:15, so those games staggered by about 45 minutes or so. Let's take a break, come back. The good and bad are GOATs of the weekend. We'll do it next on this Reaction Monday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
A little insult to injury there late for the Colts. We'll have to see where things are at from a Kenny Moore, Kwity Paye standpoint. Kenny exited there on that final drive, had kind of the hip right-ish area of his body wrapped up on the sideline there at the end of the game. Kwity Paye then went down and looked to be in some pretty serious pain. Had to be helped off. Kenny walked off under his own power. Kwity had to be helped off. Quad injury was what Shane Steichen said afterwards. Now, Kwity expressed a little bit more optimism in the post-game locker room, but who knows? Juju Brents thought he was fine after that one game, and now he could be out for the year. You just never really know with these sorts of things. As Zaire Franklin told us, 20 minutes ago? Yeah, I don't really know what hurts until I start to lift weights, which sounds like a really great feeling to have. Talk about a problem that I don't go through.
I almost interjected. That's just like us.
Yeah,
when we
sure.
do our morning bench press before the show, that's when we find out all the muscles that we used way too much this weekend.
It's more the kettle when I start throwing that around.
Yeah. Drinking
but
beer
those are
and
two
eating
big
pizza.
names. Kenny Moore, Kwity Paye. Those are two big names to keep an eye on. Again, Pittsburgh comes in here Sunday at 1 o'clock. Just a slight favorite. This is a pretty pick-em game. Pittsburgh just 1.5 points, I think I saw so far. Again, their offensive line really banged up. They have not scored a lot, but they have been able to play very stingy defense Sunday at 1 o'clock.
The Steelers, the analysis we've used on the Steelers has been the same for how many years? How many years do you feel like you've been giving similar analysis on the Steelers? Well, their offense isn't that great. They run the ball. They have sketchy quarterback play that just does, just enough. But, of course, they get it done defensively, and they end up winning enough games to probably get into the postseason.
I feel like the difference between the Steelers and the Bears is the Steelers coaching staff is not stupid.
I'd agree.
Oh, man.
Is that
that's a rough watch,
Do
brother.
I need a little bit more of an educational observation on it, or does that cover it?
I like how you didn't beat around the bush. You got right to it.
And it's just don't. TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. They've beaten the Colts many times before. Don't let that happen.
Yeah, Watt's pretty good. We'll get to your calls as we go here over the next hour and change. We've been stacked up, obviously, the beginning of the show, 239-1070. But, Mark, let's jump into it. The good, the bad, GOATs of the weekend.
Who is the GOAT?
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
Jordan, here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Or GOAT?
This guy sucks.
Of the week.
Well, I kind of tipped my hand earlier. We'll start with the positive. I think he is the best player in college football. I cannot wait to see how NFL teams respond to exactly what his role will be at the NFL level. Travis Hunter's incredible. He's the best player in college football.
Yes, he is.
You saw a huge forced fumble from him in that win over Baylor. Incredible catches week in and week out. They need to have just in the bottom left corner, they need to have a Travis Hunter snap counter along with the box score.
It's ridiculous.
That to me, we talked about Zaire Franklin playing 90 snaps. College football, you get seemingly more snaps, it seems like. And, again, he's going both ways for such a vast majority of the game. Chris Gamble, people try to throw these other names out there. No one has done it like Travis Hunter, in my opinion, in college football in quite some time. Best player. Travis Hunter.
The beauty about Travis Hunter is given that now NIL is out there and the payers are being paid. And again, insert your joke if they were being paid, when they were being paid before the NIL era. But before the NIL era, him playing so much, people would have been questioning why he's playing that much. But I feel like now that the players get paid and he's getting paid quite a bit to play there at Colorado, you're not getting as much of that. You're not getting any of that. That Deion's playing him too much.
From Jackson State to Colorado.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. My GOAT of the week on the good side. Listen, I thought about going with Malik Willis, who walked up into Broadway, walked on Broadway in Nashville. My guy, and all the stats are him in Green Bay are now he's a good quarterback. His QB rate's 118. It's hilarious. But I'm not going to do it. Yesterday, they tied the Mets. And I'm talking about the Chicago White Sox. And now they have 6 games, Kevin Bowen.
Wait, is this your good?
This is my good of the week. Thank God for the Chicago White Sox, okay? Because 62 years of futility for those Mets. and they are now tied at the bottom by the Chicago White Sox, who have 6 games to become the worst baseball team
They have to win all 6,
in the
right?
history of Major League Baseball. So they're going to do it, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Pack the stadium.
Am I the only one that would love to see them win like their first 3 this week?
God, Kevin.
Can you imagine?
Or their first 5 and get down to the final game. That would be great. Put that on ESPN.
That'd be a playoff-like atmosphere.
Mark Dykton, your good goat?
My good goat was actually being at the stadium to take in the game yesterday. I know we've kind of made fun of like the in-game entertainment every from now and then, and the product on the field was not always watchable for both teams yesterday. I thought the entertainment was quite good. I enjoyed the halftime show between the Brownsburg
the
Peewees
mascots
against the mascots. That's always good fun. I like that T.J. McConnell was banging the anvil. That was a nice opening package there.
Is that diehard Steelers fan, T.J. McConnell, banging the anvil?
So.
Okay.
And then I enjoyed that WWE's Seth Rollins, who is a diehard Bears fan, was in the McAfee suite.
Will you explain the bit for those that didn't see it, Mark?
So Seth Rollins is a real-life Bears fan. So hardcore Bears fan. Every time they lose, he tweets out, "I hate football" or "I love football," depending on the result. It's usually "I hate football." And then he was in the McAfee suite in a full Colts jacket. And like, oh, that's odd. So he had his hands raised. Fans were cheering. He played the heel. He removed the jacket for a Caleb Williams jersey. And then out of the background, a man in a black hoodie throws him over the top of the stands. Who was it? None other than T.Y. Hilton. And Seth Rollins gets ejected for entering the field of play and gets tossed out. It was very well done there. So that was very enjoyable.
What's the weight discrepancy between Seth Rollins and T.Y. Hilton?
I'm sure Seth Rollins
100 pounds?
Yeah.
I'll add one more. Edgerrin James' daughter. Beautiful national anthem from her yesterday. They had Edge in the building, T.Y. in the building. I was kind of like, wait, Tyrese Halliburton? This is kind of Seth Rollins? I mean, come on now. It's a star-studded day inside of Lucas Oil Stadium.
Well, don't forget T.J. McConnell.
T.J. McConnell, of course. Ben Shepherd. You had many Pacers players in the building
Ben Shepherd was
yesterday.
there. All right, what's the bad? Go ahead. What's the bad of the weekend?
My bad of the weekend, I guess I already hinted at it. I just college kickers.
Ugh.
I think we should ban kicking from college football games.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I got no problem with that.
It's too much to watch.
You're feeling bad for college kickers. This is what happens when you turn old. When you get old, you're 35 now. You're an old man.
The Missouri kid missed 3.
Ugh.
The Vandy kid. I mean,
Ugh.
hell. I mean that kick was gonna hit Shakespeare's Pizza in Columbia. It was such a bad miss. Yeah, I college kickers stress me out too much.
They're not good. All right. So my bad of the weekend. It was a terrible weekend for Bryce Young, and it was a terrible weekend for Bryce Young in 2 respects. Number one, the Carolina Panthers look like an absolute competent team. Not a surprise. By the way, Deontay Johnson, 8 for 122 and a touchdown, if you had him in fantasy. So Andy Dalton went for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's the only quarterback thus far this season through 3 weeks, and we'll see what happens tonight to go over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's one. And then do you know where I'm going with this second part? Bryce Young's girlfriend, the rumors are out there that she left him. Myra Gordon, that she left Bryce Young.
I feel like you're all over the quarterback.
You were on page 6 of quarterback.
She was seen
with Andy Dalton,
with Tyrese Maxey at the Eagles game.
Well.
So, I feel bad for Bryce Young.
Hard to blame her from an on-field, on-court standpoint, I guess.
He's lost his job to Andy Dalton, and Tyrese Maxey took his girl. I feel bad for Bryce Young. Not a good weekend for Bryce Young.
Increase in height, too, right? Tyrese Maxey a little taller than Bryce Young?
Yeah, probably a little bit, but not by much. I mean, Maxey's what, 6'1", 6'2", maybe? I don't know. Is he 6'3"? I don't know.
Can you imagine at the start of the year being like, hey, you can bet on the first quarterback to have a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game this season. Think about how far down the list you would have gone before betting Andy Bleepin Dalton.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen,
you would have listed 50 other quarterbacks before getting to Andy Dalton.
By the way, our guy Jason Hammer, texts us both, KB. The Giants-Browns total closed at 38. The game ended with a total of 36, 21-15, and I did see this live. The Giants did the thing that when you get into field goal range, you stop playing football. You just give up. It's a 1st and 10 at the 35.
I think Tomlin did that yesterday,
We'll just give up. We'll stop playing football, and they did that, and I forget the guy's name because Graham Gano's out. Dude, he shanked one. It had to be 30 feet to the right. The guy looked like he was a kicker for Fresno State or something like that.
Should we talk later in the week about Shane Steichen foregoing the field goal attempt for Matt Gay, or is that too long of one?
Ooh.
It might have been too long.
I like
don't
that.
know.
Mark, what do you got?
I like that.
All right. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm happy the Colts won. But the Bears'
Do you
offense,
really mean that, Mark?
The Bears' offense is just mind-numbingly bad. I mean, Caleb Williams was great. He was fine for what he's been dealing with, but he's got no offensive line in front of him. Matt Eberflus, I'm looking at you with your hits principle. I'd like to add an S to the front of that hits principle, by the way, with how he's been playing with that acronym. Shane Waldron, I'm looking at you with your shaky hands calling plays on 4th and goal with the option play.
Hands.
We thought that Trey
Called him out
Sermon
for shaky hands.
Yeah, he was. There's a clip online of his hands shaking that he's got nerves all of a sudden. I'm telling you what. We thought the Anthony Richardson to Trey Sermon option play was atrocious, and Shane Waldron said, "Hold my beer" in week 3 and called that play that lost 12 yards on the 1-yard line. Absolutely atrocious. The offensive line doing like some kind of painting, like paint me like your French girls, with all 4 of them laying on the ground. I mean, it is bad news Bears. It is atrocious. Matt Eberflus should be fired into the sun. It is not good. Just because he has a beard, everybody's like, "Oh, he's changed."
I know
he hasn't.
I know we got to take
He
a break.
stinks.
Me and Jake were talking about this before the game, and Hammer was there, maybe him as well. It feels like the Bears are a fan base that no one has a new jersey. Everyone's got an old jersey.
I
This
saw
is
some
Chicago
Caleb
Bears
Williams.
fan.
I saw some Roma Dunze, but I saw a lot of Urlacher, Gale Sayers, Walter Paytons.
There's a lot of men in their 50s still wearing that Urlacher jersey.
I wanted a
KB.
Craig Krenzel jersey.
And the saddest jersey I saw yesterday had to be my man who had the Matt Ryan jersey. Oh,
we've got Matt Ryan,
brother. That's
I
weird.
saw a guy
Just
wearing
wear
a
a Colts sweatshirt.
There's a guy wearing a Rex Grossman jersey. I'm like,
He
that's
made
the
the
one you
Super
pulled
Bowl.
out.
He made the Super
Did you not
Bowl.
do your laundry
Shout
this
out
week?
to Bloomington South. Come on now, Mark.
Let's take a break. Come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. We'll do it next. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
If you missed it, Zaire Franklin, we'll play that back coming up here to close out the show. Andy, Carson Steele is becoming quite the national darling, is he not?
Okay, so he had 17 carries. He had 72 yards. He had a catch yesterday. I didn't think it was bad. You know, it's funny. The Chiefs lose all their running backs and everything else, and they ran for 128 yards last night as they got the win. And they maybe got a little bit of help with the officiating at the end. But, you know, they were showing the Carson Steele. I don't know if you watched the broadcast or not. You know, they were showing it was his sister's wedding. And so everyone at the reception was watching the game, which...
I know, the little Sunday wedding.
Sunday at 4 o'clock wedding, so whatever. And you know, I thought that was pretty cool. They were joking on the broadcast how it's like, you know, they didn't think he was going to be in the NFL, obviously, to do this on a Sunday at 4 o'clock. That's number one. But number two... I mean, when's the last time, I guess it's probably a combination of Peyton Hillis and Mike Allstott, that we've had a running back that's looked like Carson Steele? I know everyone's thinking there's not a lot of white running backs, which is also true. That would be number one. But number two, it's the long hair, KB. I mean, we usually don't get the long-haired running back. I mean, Carson Steele very much looks like a fullback or a special teams player or a backup linebacker, not a running back who's going to average probably 70, 80 yards a game going forward.
Might need the Edgerrin James. Cut the hair because you're nervous about people tackling you.
I just thought, when's the last time the NFL had someone looking like Carson Steele who might go out there and be a viable option in fantasy football? So, good stuff yesterday from Carson Steele. Let's take a break. On the other end, we'll continue with the Colts conversation. Our headlines from the Colts, you can dial in. We'll read those coming up in about 15 minutes. Plus, we'll take your calls. 317-239-1070. One more hour to go here. Wake up call, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Good protection, hanging in there, taking a shot down the far sideline. He's got Alec Pierce. Pierce at the 10, he's at the 5, and then rolled out of bounds at the 4-yard line. 44 yards, another bomb. Alec Pierce strikes again. Colts looking for their first points, trying to get a touchdown here on 3rd and goal inside the 5. Shotgun snap, angling left, throws. It's wobbly, and it is tipped, and it is intercepted in the end zone by the Chicago Bears with Tremaine Edmonds. Caleb Williams taking a shot down the near sideline. Over the shoulder grab is made. Roma Dunze out of Washington. Big play for Chicago, their first of the afternoon. Williams goes out of the gun. 3 receivers move to his left. Backing to throw, plants, settling in, hitching, throws upfield, picked off by the Colts to the near sideline. It's Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones stepped in front of the pass. Richardson out of the gun, backs to throw, play action, has time, wide open over in the far sideline. This is a catch. Kylan Granson with yards after that grab, scooting inside the 30-yard line, hammered out of bounds. Colts to the 29-yard line. They're back to work to the line of scrimmage. Right side give to Jonathan Taylor, breaks it out. He's at the 20, 25, 10, he's at the 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor scoots in from 29 yards out. 4th and goal at the 1-yard line, under 2 minutes in the first half. Williams out of the gun. Swift back in. Pistol formation. They're running the option. They pitch it to Swift. Swift hit. Loses his footing. Back around the 15-yard line. Slips around the 13. Oh, what a play by the Colts. Jalen Jones sniffed it out. And it's a huge tackle for loss by the Colts defense. No points for the Bears. 1st and 10 for the Colts on their own 30-yard line, going left to right. Play action, rolling out right side is Richardson. Again taking a shot, airmails it, intercepted, picked off by the Bears. Jalen Johnson with the interception. The pass was intended downfield for Michael Pittman Jr. on the first play of the second half. The Colts throw their 2nd interception of the ball game. 3 receivers right, 2 go left. Colts bring in pressure. Williams, great protection, still dancing. Now he's in trouble. He'll be sacked inside the 10, and it's Kenny Moore. The nickel corner gets a sack. Moving on the Colts right to left. Play action, deep drop for Williams. Stands tall. He's going to slide it upfield, and he throws it into a crowd of Colts. Almost intercepted. Hang on, it's picked off. Jalen Jones, number 2. Richardson out of the gun. Sermon stays in as the back left. And they give it to Sermon. Sermon runs into 2 players being pushed forward by the Colts. It's a push upfield, and the momentum for the Colts is into the end zone. Touchdown! Play action. Backing to throw is Williams. And the ball is out. It's a strip sack. It's available for it. And I think the Colts have it around the 17-yard line. Latu with a strip sack, and it's recovered, I think, by Grover Stewart. The 3rd takeaway of the ball game for the Colts on defense. Shotgun snap. They give it to Taylor. Taylor sneaks his way across the goal line. Yes, sir. There it is. Touchdown. Here's a counter right side to Taylor. Taylor's got 100 yards, 40, 45, and a first down, more importantly. And he is going to blast his way to the 47-yard line for a gain of 13, and that should about do it.
We all needed that, just to change the mood around, around our facility.
It only takes one. It only takes one to get rolling.
We're winning. Entertainingly ugly. But it is indeed a win. And the Colts have their first of the season. Quite a lot of winless teams got on the board yesterday in the NFL, 21-16 over the Chicago Bears in a battle of what would give the Chicago inept rushing offense versus the Colts inept rushing defense. It was the Colts that won that handily, and that set up waves of defensive playmaking, which was key throughout. A Latu strip, that huge goal line stand you just heard there. Jalen Jones with some big plays in the secondary. Jonathan Taylor's vision, patience, the extra gear on full display as well. And certainly you can't recap yesterday without talking about the erratic quarterback play and the Colts winning in spite of Anthony Richardson. A whole lot, Andy, packed into those 60 minutes of football.
Yeah, I thought you had a good summary there. Jonathan Taylor's been fantastic. That defense was fantastic. Guys like Jalen Jones, I didn't know exactly, how good he was going to be this season. A lot was going to be put on his plate with Juju Brents out. Obviously, a guy like Nick Cross, who has played some solid football. Latu finally, if we go 3 full games with Latu getting to the quarterback, that would be a question, but he goes out there. I thought we got our answer, a lot less A.D. Mitchell, a lot more Josh Downs. I'm sure that will continue at least a little bit. let me ask you this. This is probably more of a Tuesday conversation or a Wednesday conversation, and I want to be honest, this is what I'm struggling with. My analysis of this game was you would leave as a Colts fan, maybe not necessarily feeling better or too much better, but you would get the close win. And ultimately, that is what happened. And we look at this schedule now going forward for the Colts. I mean, you mentioned Pittsburgh, and I have a ton of respect for them winning games the way they do, but they're a beat-up team. They're a small margin for error team. They don't have an elite quarterback team. So you look at them, maybe you could get to them. You beat them last year. I know a lot has changed. And then Jacksonville, I know it's in Jacksonville. They're a mess. I think they lose tonight. Tennessee's a mess, and obviously the Dolphins are as well. My point being, they're winnable games. I'm trying to figure out, KB, what I now do with this game. Do I say it's a win? They simply needed to get a win. It's a bottom line business, which we talked about in the 7 o'clock hour. So be happy with the win and just move on to the next week. Every week in the NFL is different. There are positives to take away. Obviously, Richardson's play is not one of those. Is this the type of win that it could start something for the Colts, or is it they just outlasted kind of another rough team in a single game situation? I think for me and for Colts fans, that's the next conversation is what does Sunday mean in trying to get some wins in the next 4 weeks where, quite frankly, they could go 3-1 in those next 4 weeks if they can bring the defense that we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I think you have to start here. 0-3 would have been disastrous. I believe the Texans in 2018 are the only team to come back from an 0-3 deficit to make the playoffs like in the last 20, 30 years in the NFL, which is kind of a crazy stat. So certainly you have to start there. I think if there's one thing you saw yesterday that was different in the positive direction and it could continue is more of that defensive playmaking.
Right.
And now the question becomes, was that just a slump buster?
That's my question.
Are you going to wish every offensive line looks like Chicago's?
Is it just Chicago with the bad coaching and the bad offensive line and the rookie coach and you can't run the football and everything? Because they did throw against you.
But there's an element of you play who's in front of you. And certainly, Indiana football right now from a college standpoint is doing that in overwhelming teams. So the Colts yesterday, they took the team that was in front of them. They took advantage of the opportunity, whereas the week prior against a quarterback that was very, very inexperienced, they did not do that. So I think you have to acknowledge that. I'm not sitting here all of a sudden being like, oh, yeah, it's an 11-win football team, and they're going to win the AFC South going away. Offensively, I think it's a lot of the same. Jonathan Taylor continues to be really good. Your offensive line, the Colts offensive line not only has been healthy, but they've been stout. There are not many units around the league that can say those two things.
They've been good.
Through 3 weeks. And Anthony Richardson, it's been steps backwards. Now, if you want to be, optimistic about it, you can look at it and say, well, he's processing fine. I'd rather him be processing fine than be inaccurate if you're going to weigh those two. Can you teach processing better or can you teach accuracy better? Again, those are probably bigger conversations with Richardson, but you had to avoid disaster. Disaster would have been 0-3.
Yeah. Season's over.
Because, you can spin it 2 ways. You obviously looked at the quarterbacks of the schedule and they are, not menacing by any means upcoming. You also look at Sunday and say you play an undefeated team in your own building. Then after that, you have 4 or 5 on the road. So is that difficult? Like you can look at, again, we're still kind of waiting for, what's this Colts team look like on the road? What's Anthony Richardson look like on the road? So a lot of it, I think, just depends on how you choose to look at it. And I know there are a lot of Colts fans that are in different boats this season. Some are in the boat of, yes, every season matters. And the NFL, it's not for long, and it's all about the wins and the losses in that singular season. Other fans look at it and say, this is Anthony Richardson's rookie year. It's all about his growth. So, it's kind of weird. Like, who are we speaking to? Are we speaking to the, short-term win now, it's all about this year, that audience? Or are you speaking to the, hey, this is all about the quarterback, I don't know what the hell Carolina's doing, sending it to Andy Dalton. Who cares? They still are going to get to the end of the year, and they're either going to have a 34-year-old Andy Dalton as their quarterback or, Bryce Young, and who knows where they're going to be drafting. So that, I think, is the awkward dilemma that the Colts, again, they've largely made this bet for themselves that they're in here in 2024.
What it also shows, because obviously they're going to take some losses here. They just are. You're going to in the NFL anyway, and they are with the issues that they have. I am probably still a little bit more on the development side of things than the pure win-loss record, but people are not going to, I think the majority of people are not going to hear that given how long Chris Ballard has been here. And then you throw on top of it, I think the easy analysis, I'm not saying that, that I haven't given it out or you haven't given it out, but, the easy analysis was, well, you won 9 games and you were, a couple snaps away from making the postseason with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback, right? That was the easy analysis to have. Unfortunately, every year is different, right? I mean, every year is different. Look at, some teams this year. Look at a team like the Minnesota Vikings. From last year to this year, things are really different. The only team that seemingly has the same thing every single year is basically Patrick Mahomes, right? Like every year you can just line it up and he's going to win double-digit games and be there in the end and win the AFC West and everything else. I just, going back to AR, and then we'll go to some calls, 239-1070. I'll go back to what I said earlier. To me, it's not about, it is about the maturation. He can't make losing football plays. And yesterday he made losing football plays. He didn't, yes, he's young and he's growing into the position and everything else, but he made plays that it wasn't, I missed a third down. It was, I'm throwing an interception. I'm taking points off the board. And he cannot make those plays. I think that is the worrisome thing, that he didn't do that. He did do that. He did turn the ball over and look sketchy against Green Bay, and he came right back and looked sketchy again. And I think that's what worries me, especially Sunday. Pittsburgh is a good defensive team. So you think, who could make his life really difficult? It would be TJ Watt and company. I think that's what worries me the most is from week 2 to week 3, I didn't see Anthony Richardson get better. I saw him get worse.
Yeah, and I think the bigger question, again, is going to boil down to how much of this can you teach the accuracy? How much of it is footwork related? We've had his quarterbacks coach on each of the last 2 years, Will Hewlett, and he made it very clear to us a week after the draft last year. We are working on the feet up in terms of his fundamentals and retooling those. And the other thing would be we need to get the velocity to a point where he knows when to throw certain pitches. Like, for example, that 80 Mitchell missed late in the game, that was not the time to throw the lofted ball. That was the time to throw the frozen rope. It's kind of knowing when to go to your pitches, and without game reps, I don't think there's any way to truly, truly know that. I remember a question that I asked Shane Steichen at the Combine. This would have been, a year and a half ago, I guess probably 2 months before they drafted Richardson, of can you teach accuracy? And Shane was pretty adamant that you could. You can help accuracy, I think was his direct quote on that day. And then he also mentioned, scheme, stuff that you put him into. Don't make them think too much. Simplify the offense. What I saw yesterday was 3 to 4 misses on third down where guys are wide open.
Wide open.
I mean, we're talking
wide open.
High school open. And just misses. And a variety of misses. One to the left, one to the right, an airmail, a miss down the field. I mean, it's not just like hey, he can't throw to this side of the field, or he's having trouble, only on the underneath stuff. It was a variety of levels. And I think now we're getting into Richardson's sample size, 6-7 games into it, of do we see trends? Do we see steps in the right direction? What is continuing to be an issue? Those things will offer clearer pictures for us just based off more evidence. And right now, to your point, Andy, these last 2 starts, it has been poor. I thought what was poor in Green Bay was mainly the turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of drops.
Right.
Yesterday, he had a lot of turnovers, and then he missed. Like, his 50% day was more on him. The 50% day in Green Bay,
agreed.
I put a lot of that on the pass catchers.
Agreed.
Yesterday's 50%
it was
day,
on him, yep.
Just inaccuracy from him. Outside of the Josh Downs drop, he can nitpick with the Taylor one. I didn't look at it in that light. So now, how does he deal with adversity? Again, all of this is just new and foreign and unknown, and we'll see how he handles it. I think you love post-game locker room. He's up there breaking down the team because I had to remind myself that was the first time Anthony Richardson has ever started and finished and won a football game in the NFL.
That's staggering.
So there he is breaking down the team
really
huddle.
Is.
Part of me was like, why is Richardson breaking down the huddle? Then I'm like, well, he is the quarterback. He is the captain.
He is the captain,
so,
yeah.
He's thanking guys, and we can play the audio maybe tomorrow on the show. And then at one point he goes, just know I will be better for you. And, you love that. You obviously love, public accountability and him saying that to his teammates. But the question with every 21-year-old quarterback comes, can you grow while not letting it break you? Like, is Bryce Young broken?
Is Will Levis going to be broken?
Yeah, exactly.
I would say Bryce Young is, and I would say Levis is going to be this season.
Now, the good news is Richardson's not getting hit like those guys.
No, he's not.
Especially Levis.
No, he's not.
Now, again, this is where you hand me the orange juice and you say glass half full or glass half empty. The glass half full would say, well, physically, he's not getting pummeled on every single snap. Well, the glass half empty would say, well, if he's not getting hit every snap, shouldn't that mean he's even more accurate? Because he's operating out all these clean pockets. So this is the difficulty we have right now with Richardson.
239-1070. Let's take some phone calls. We'll get to our weekend headlines here coming up. John, you've waited the longest. John, fire away, buddy.
Hey, guys. Nice chatting with you this morning. Kevin, when you tweeted last night, this is the game that will make your eyes bleed. It's so true. I felt like I was bleeding out of every crevice watching the Colts. But, this game, again, is another reminder that this year really is about AR's development. The national media can say one thing about, AR should sit or Flacco maybe starting at the end of the season, and we know that's ridiculous. He has to suffer through these games to really experience everything that the position has to offer. In terms of his accuracy, that's a question I'll leave to you guys. I'm not any sort of guru or expert, but it seems like he's getting, even when he gets his feet set, he's throwing more with his arm. And just will end up airmailing these throws, these check down throws. I felt like this game and the last game versus the first game, you had those overthrows, but also the stupid plays, if that makes sense, versus simply the overthrows in the game against Houston. I don't think we're at the point where we know yet whether this is something that can be fixed. And you guys just said it's 6-7 games into the sample size. I think we're going to need another 5 to 6 games to really know. But what do you guys see in terms of the mechanics that you can really point to? Because it's hard as a typical fan to really see that. But is there anything that you see him doing consistently in terms of that accuracy and why he's just totally overthrowing a guy like Pittman in the last game? But overall, you got the win, and this is a bottom line game, right? Wins and losses. Have a great week, guys. Thanks.
John, appreciate the call. Have a great week as well. Yeah, again, I think so much of it is rooted in footwork. And I'll go back to Will Hewlett. And Mark, we honestly should probably go back to those two conversations and maybe splice out just a clip or two, even the one from last April, because I think it's very accurate here, 18 months later. And the weird thing, Andy, is the dude has had surgery on the most important part of his body since then, in that right shoulder. So, again, you can choose to point to a lot of examples. Josh Allen is the most common one. At Wyoming, he was throwing to you, me, and Mark. I think that was kind of the popular thought there. Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, a lot of people point to. And again, all three of these guys, you will see poor accuracy numbers early in their NFL careers and then improvement. The difference in Hurts and Lamar specifically, they were great in college.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Heisman Trophy,
3 years plus.
college football, playoff-worthy quarterbacks. Like, Richardson was not that. So that's where you go to Allen and you say, well, is it apples to apples? And then when you say to Richardson, well, he had NFL wideouts. I mean, some of them are in the NFL, but granted, Florida's not been very good lately. So that's where you struggle with it. But I would say you look at the Pittman interception, it's a back foot throw that he tries to cash. And, is he too reliant on his arm? When he has the poor footwork and just he oversails there.
Listen, the last couple weeks there have been people online that have dissected, and I know Colts fans have seen it. Some of you have tweeted it at us, that have dissected Anthony Richardson, how his feet are not always aligned on where he's going to go with the ball. In other words, they might be pointing one way, his feet and lower body, when he's trying to throw the other way.
Which is going to lead to...
Yeah, I think our last caller is talking about,
inconsistency.
at times they talked about on the broadcast yesterday, is he always stepping into throws? The problem I have with Anthony Richardson is he just has such a freaking strong arm. Like, some guys got to step into throws to drill it in to an open window. Anthony Richardson is different with his arm strength. And so how does that also get mixed in? I will say, and I knew this was probably going to happen, and I don't have a good answer for this, and maybe you do, okay? Everyone says, we're gonna preach patience this year with Richardson. And that is such a great thing to say, whether it's a fan base, whether it's the media, whether it's an organization, okay? So there's been different varying levels of you got to have patience as Anthony Richardson develops. That's a great thing to say, but when we get into football games, you want to win those games, and when he's throwing interceptions or missing people on 3rd and 3, you get angry, right?
Did we need Twitter in 1998 when Peyton Manning was throwing all those interceptions? They were going 3-13. But again, Peyton's college resume is totally different.
But this is the big conversation now.
That Ryan Leaf fellow.
I forget who was having this conversation yesterday because I consumed so much damn football. But they were having and I'm blanking on this. It might have been on ESPN. They're having the conversation that, so many people have done the Manning rule, and that is you throw the guy in and you let him work through his issues. That is what you're seeing with Anthony Richardson, right? I mean, you're seeing him. He's very much the starter. They're not going to Flacco. They're not, they weren't going to go back to Gardner Minshew last year. They were going to let him work his way through. I have found it interesting because quarterback play has stunk. Young quarterback play has stunk in the NFL outside of C.J. Stroud that, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Will Levis, you've seen Pittsburgh have to grind through. I think Trevor Lawrence, I wouldn't say he's been a bust, but he ain't been very good. My point being, I'm sure there are more, that now there is this revolutionary thought in the NFL that you need to let these guys sit for a period of time before they play. I just find that interesting how, some of these guys are struggling, and that is now the conversation, whereas for how many years the conversation has been, hey, you get one of these big-time players, you put him in the game, you let him figure it out. If it takes him a full year, it takes him a full year.
I would say this, that is, I think right now, why I will obviously acknowledge 7 starts in his career, what is alarming to me right now, and again, I can only evaluate what I've seen so far, is it's a 180 from last season in a negative light. And numbers, I think, are able to, everybody can kind of understand them. And I know they aren't the end-all, be-all, but let's just take completion percentage. He's 10% worse from last year to this year. Interception numbers. And he's pretty much played the same amount of snaps.
Right.
He's actually played a little bit fewer snaps than he did last year. I think it's like 150 to 173. He's thrown 5 more interceptions than he did last season. And Andy, through 3 weeks, I would say the pass protection has been great, and I would say the run game has been very beneficial. It's not like he's under siege with 3 backup offensive linemen in there, and Jonathan Taylor's averaging 2.8 a carry.
And he's had wide receivers open. On these misses, he's got guys open.
So
whether it's Downs, Pittman, Mitchell.
Like, if you wanted me to give you a concrete answer right here on September 23rd, I'd say that's alarming to me. Like, I can't sit here and spin that. Now, I can also acknowledge, again, it is 7 starts. There are ebbs and flows. This is a roller coaster. This is a reason why I don't like roller coasters. Like, this is part of it. Like, you are going to have these major valleys before you have consistent peaks of it. So that's kind of where I sit. It's that if I were going to boil it down simply to, okay, where are you at right now? Give me your, Richardson elevator pitch. That's a little alarming. You would like to see, if anything, steps in the right direction, improvements, a little bit more of a consistency. Wait, the offensive line's been great. The run game's been great. That means his play should be a little bit higher. And we have not seen that here so far. But also, he's about to embark on really a season unlike anything he's ever had of, in a few weeks, he's going to see the Texans for a second time.
Right.
He's going to get the Titans 2 times. He's going to get the Jags 2 times. He's going to start to see some of the same defenses again and again. How does he handle all of that? We'll get truer evaluation periods moving forward. But for the here and now, missing the singles plus the turnovers while doing it under clean pockets and a strong run game, that is not going in the right direction.
It is weird that in like 2 of the games this year, he's got completions of 9 and 10, which is not very much winning football when you look. I mean, granted, they only have 1 win, but 19 completions in 2 games, that's not ideal.
And they've been dynamic in the run game with just Jonathan Taylor. They haven't been dynamic in the run game where teams are having to choose, hey, is JT getting the ball or is Anthony Richardson going to keep the ball? We did see that some last year. We haven't seen it this year.
What's harder to teach, processing or accuracy?
I think accuracy.
Accuracy.
Yeah, that's what I think.
See, I think a lot of people would say processing. Because if you have deer in headlights, if you aren't poised, If you are scatterbrained, then you've got no chance. Whereas someone look at accuracy, say, well, that's a fundamental. I can drill that in practice. Coaching can, literally hands-on you.
Right.
I've definitely heard both answers, but
that's an interesting. It sounds like you got a question for Shane Steichen today.
I would say,
well, I know Shane's not going to answer it in
of course
in
he's not.
manner. That's why
No.
I go back to what I asked him before the combine of can you teach accuracy? Because that was with Richardson. I don't think it's ever been a huge processing question.
I agree.
I don't think that's ever really been the thing. So
he's made bad decisions, but
Yeah,
every
but it's
quarterback's
not-
going to make bad decisions.
I would call the bad decision on the goal line, the interception yesterday, just trying to be a hero.
Right.
Not reading it poorly.
Yeah.
He tried to throw a ball through three defenders.
Listen, I'm with you.
Of course it's going to get tipped.
Yeah. I think he knows where to go with the ball more than not. I think Steichen has said that. It's getting the ball there, right? And I think that's the issue. Todd up next, 239-1070 on the Fan on this Reaction Monday. Todd, go ahead, man.
Hey, good morning, fellas. We'll stay on topic here. By the way, you did a nice job of squeezing in, I think, all 10 completions on your last re-entry. Hey, let's be positive a little bit here. I thought I did see on a couple passes, and I think two of the bigger completions he had, I thought I saw a little bit more touch. And they're important for different reasons, but I thought the Granson pass was a good pass, and he showed some touch on it. But I think as important as not, he actually found a position group that had been underutilized, not utilized as much as anything else. And then I thought the swing pass to the left to Taylor was also a big completion. Again, I thought he showed some touch on that. He put it where he needed to with Taylor because you're going to have to. But those two have been off sync, I think we know, most of the season. And I thought you saw some touch on those passes, and I thought that were important completions going forward. I think both the confidence and team success. So I wanted your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought the Pierce ball probably more than the Granson ball, honestly, if I had to go to a deep one, Todd. I thought Granson was just wide the hell open. I guess he had a nice touch down the sideline, but I thought, first off, that was a great route by Pierce to beat Jalen Johnson on that route early in the game. I thought that was some nice touch from Richardson down the sideline there. And, Taylor, you have to give him chances, post-catch. So, again, there are fleeting moments. Todd brings up throws. It's not, he's 50%. He ain't 20%. But, on NFL Sundays, you have to have more than just a swing pass to a running back and hit any wide open Granson. I'll go back to that Mitchell play late in the game, Andy. It's a third down, and A.D. Mitchell's open. And that, to me, wasn't necessarily as much of a footwork as go back to our conversation with this QB coach, Will Hewlett. Do you know when you should throw a particular pass? And it's kind of like a point guard. Tyrese Halliburton throwing a full-length court pass is going to look different than him trying to throw an alley-oop. Or
Right.
him trying to throw a backdoor to Benedict Mathurin, and he's trying to lay it in before the defender gets there. That pass to Mitchell late, I tweeted out, and I apologize to our non-golf audience out there, Richardson threw a sand wedge when he needed to throw a 4-iron. He needed to throw the penetrating ball there. He needed to throw remember the Ashton Dulin touchdown in week 1?
Yep.
That frozen rope?
Yep.
That's what he needed there. Instead, he almost hit the Jumbotron trying to loft it, and by that point, Kevin Byard catches up to it and knocks the ball away. So, a lot of this is game reps, though. You got to experience that to know, okay, when should I throw that ball? When should I not throw that ball? Those sorts of things to it all.
It's going to be a thing of beauty if he and A.D. Mitchell ever get on the same page. A.D. Mitchell could have 8 catches right now for 200 yards and a touchdown.
7 of 56 snaps for A.D. Mitchell. Josh Downs, 32 yesterday in his debut. Was it just the one catch for Downs? No, he had 3.
I thought he had a couple, yeah.
3. He had that early drop, pretty much all underneath. What was his long of?
Yeah, they didn't. He had how many snaps did
13.
you say again?
32.
32.
So 3 catches,
Yeah,
5
so they're working
targets.
him in. That's fine.
32 snaps there for Josh Downs.
You want to get to a check down and then take a break and keep pumping
Yeah,
through
with
some
our
of these
morning
calls?
headlines coming up in a few. But yeah, let's go ahead and check it down.
Action at Ascension St. Vincent Field. Visit NUNights.com
right, let's give you a couple sounds maybe you have not heard after the game. We've talked so much about Anthony Richardson, his interceptions, some of the misses that he's had. Here's Anthony after the game praising what we've praised pretty much all morning, KB, and that's the defense.
Our defense great. I went against them, all year. Training camp, OTAs, all that. I know the squad is great. They just had to, just get rolling. And obviously they did that with a few takeaways for us. But yeah, shout out to our defense, man.
Yeah, and they were pretty good, the 3 takeaways yesterday. And let's hear from Jonathan Taylor. A nice win yesterday. He went up over 100 yards again. But, hey, as a team, they got to keep getting better.
We still got to go to work, all of us. We have a lot to clean up. You always want to end up in the win column. At the end of the day, that's always the number one priority, is come out with the win. But we know we got to go to work. It's still early, and we got a lot to get better at if we want to get to where we want to go.
What a well-blocked Taylor touchdown run, pierced downfield. There was a tight end, might have been Allie Cox, Ogletree. Great block down the field, and then he just gets that extra gear, and that's the difference. He can turn 9 into 29, and he did that on that touchdown run. And again, you want to talk about a big, big play. Latu certainly provided that, slamming the door shut with that first NFL sack. So Sunday, 1 o'clock, the undefeated Steelers in town. All right, we'll see if the Fever can extend their season. It'll be Wednesday night in Connecticut. That is a 7:30 tip. Pretty ugly yesterday, particularly in the second half. 93-69, the final score there. Again, what worried me about this matchup with the Sun, first off, Connecticut, very balanced. And secondly, they can throw a variety of defenders at the Fever guards. And yesterday with Caitlin Clark, it was Deanna Bonner who really just wrecked Caitlin's day. 4 of 17 from the floor. Kelsey Mitchell and Leah Boston had decent outings from a scoring standpoint, but Clark cannot get going at all. You would think the Fever won a game in the 80s or the 90s, but they were not able to keep pace with the Sun. Really balanced. Marina Mayberry, the Notre Dame product, very good for the Sun. They got her at the trade deadline, and a big deal there. So playing to keep your season alive, playing to get a home game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. That is what is at stake 7:30 Wednesday. If the Fever win, then it will be Friday night inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Win and move on to the semifinals.
What's better or worse if you lose a heartbreaker in the final seconds, like the Pacers lost game 1 in Boston, or if you just lose by 20 in the second half and kind of get your ass beat? What's better for the rebound? I always think it's getting beat down.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Pacers do that against the Bucks. Remember,
I know.
They got beat handily in that Bucks series, and then responded.
I'm trying to be nice because the Fever stunk it up yesterday in the second half.
It's a lot of inexperienced Fever players in terms of WNBA playoff basketball.
Notre Dame win over the weekend. Indiana won. Purdue lost at Oregon State. They threw for 50 yards, whatever it was. So some college football, better matchups coming up this weekend. Monday Night Football tonight. We have 2 games at 7:30. Bills hosting Jacksonville. Bengals hosting the Washington Commanders. And congratulations to the White Sox. You're now tied for being the worst team of all time.
Congrats to David Bell on him getting fired.
Nothing like the money of a fired coach.
Zaire Franklin in about 10. Let's hit some headlines on the other side.
I can't read it. There's no words on it.
I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
Ripped from the headlines of the newspaper.
We'll do it live.
Post-game headlines.
Thing sucks.
If you missed Zaire Franklin, we'll re-rack that coming up here in a few. Our post-game headlines, again, 5 words or less. Send us a tweet after the game, and we will read some of the best ones here. Jeremy, W, but at what cost? That's referencing some late-game injuries, certainly. Again, Kenny Moore, hip, Quiddy Pay, quad. Aaron, bowling shoe, ugly win.
Bowling shoe ugly. That's actually pretty great. Colts fan 3493 says Richardson named sailing team captain.
Oh, come on.
That's
pretty good.
Brylan21 said Colts less inept than Bears. That's true on most Sundays, I would say.
Sucker Bowl 2024, boys. People are just starting being nice.
Billy Slick Willie says the floose is not loose.
That's good, too.
I'd like to cut the floose loose, actually.
Scotty goes with bad beats bad. Yeah, that was a thought I had yesterday. Are we just looking at a couple of bad football? We were looking at a couple of wild young quarterbacks. Like, they were, throws to Roman Dunze. I'm like, wow, oh my gosh. And then he just throws a pick to Jalen Jones. And Richardson had, oh my gosh, look at that ball to Pierce. And then, wait, did he really throw that on 3rd and goal there? So, again, thank you for those, our post-game headlines.
All right, good stuff there. We're going to hear from Zaire Franklin. You guys ready to hear that here? We'll take a break. We're going to take a break here, right, Mark? We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We had about a 10-minute conversation with Zaire Franklin, the captain. We'll let you hear it. We'll do it next here on The Fan.
After tying a career high with 90 defensive snaps played, Zaire Franklin joined us earlier in the show, and we started off our conversation asking him exactly about that.
I definitely earned a little bit of a sleep in from the wife, so, good for me. And then, just typical morning. It was weird. It was 90 snaps. It didn't feel like it, though. Felt better than it did the last couple weeks.
Zaire Franklin with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Zaire, you guys need one to kind of get things going. That was the message yesterday in the locker room. The win yesterday, how much juice, what kind of juice should this give you guys going forward, not only for next week, but the next month or so maybe?
Oh, man, it felt great. The fans at Lucas Oil, man, they've just been great. They've just been so supportive. They've been loud. They've been, just turned up for us. So it felt great to get that win back at home, just to get that rolling. I know we know the NFL, a lot of it is just about momentum. So now we finally got one on the right side of it. Hopefully we can build on it on Sunday against Pittsburgh.
Zaire, if you don't mind, walk us through the 4th and goal and the speed option. When did you feel like, it seemed like you just read it unbelievably. When did you know that was the look they were going to there? And what was kind of the chatter in the huddle on that drive and then still deciding to go for it 16, 17 plays into it?
So, they had tried to pretty much just pound it in via the A-gap 2 or 3 times in a row, and it's just, we stressed all week, we talked about drawing the line in the sand, drawing the line in the dirt and not letting them cross it. And, I think that was something that, we really believed in. So after we stopped them 3 times, I've been in the league long enough to know that they're not going to do it a 4th time. They're going to do something different. When they switch running backs, I knew I'm like, okay, well, DeAndre Swift, he's the outside type of running back. He's not going to run in the A-gap. So, once they hopped in the pistol, I knew it was going to be some type of perimeter run. As soon as he went to the flat, I just shot it and just wanted to make sure I cut him off so the boys could rally and we could get him down.
You've fielded many questions these last 2 weeks about your guys' run defense. If you could, what have those film sessions been like coming into Sunday in watching your guys' effort against the run in weeks 1 and 2?
Yeah, it was tough. The hard truth is that we just wasn't good enough. That's across the board, and, that starts with myself. So, I think the first step of that is just being honest with yourself about, how you've been playing and just making steps to move forward. So, definitely some uncomfortable conversations being had on our side of the ball throughout the building. But it was good to see the boys respond yesterday.
Zaire Franklin with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Schematically, what did you guys do different yesterday? TV said maybe you're playing 3 linebackers at times, more linebackers. Did you do something different yesterday than maybe week 1 and week 2?
What I would say, I think we just went in with an initial focus of, we're not going to let these guys run the ball on us. I think in the previous weeks, right or wrong, we were kind of looking at, trying to stop a couple of different things. This time we kind of understood no one coming in. They was going to run the ball. I think we did a good job. Playing 3 linebackers definitely helps out sometimes too, but I just really think it was just the mentality that we brought, truthfully, that, they just wasn't going to move the ball on the ground.
And then in the 4th quarter, Zaire Latu, he gets the strip sack. We've been waiting to see, he's a dynamic player. We've been waiting to see that, and he helped shut the door on the Bears yesterday. What did you see with that play, and what were your conversations with him after that big sack?
Oh, man, Latu, just happy for him. I know he'd been hunting. I know he'd been close. And that's just the type of player he is. That's just what he brings to the game. That's why they brought him in. You know what I mean? Just to, when you know it's a pass, go make a big play. He's a hell of a player, first of many. I just had to make sure he celebrated with the TV the right way. When you're a young guy,
you had to remind him of that, didn't you?
Yeah, he just wanted to do jumping jacks and jump around. I'm like, no, look, go ahead, this your moment. Go ahead, turn up with the fans. Go ahead with the camera. So, definitely love the young Latu, but like I said, it's first of very many.
Boy, what a huge play that was and helping slam the door shut. Zaire Franklin, again, team high 15 tackles, 90 defensive snaps yesterday for the captain. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. If I'm not mistaken, you were the first 3-year captain at Syracuse in 100-some years. So when I'm watching you, what I think is intentionally go off sides at one point in the game, I'm thinking, that is not a dumb football player doing that. What was that? Could you explain that for our audience?
Yeah, so, it's a situation that we talk about a lot. They're inside the 5-yard line. They just got a big play. Most good offenses, once they got you on your heels, they go tempo, they try to get going. I heard over the headset us trying to switch personnel to our goal line personnel, the one that we had to stop previously in the game. And I was good, but quite honestly, I wasn't sure if everybody was going to be lined up, if everybody was ready. So, what's the difference between, 3 yards and, 2 or 1.5. So just trying to, knowing that taking that penalty intentionally will at least allow us to set up and be able to play, actual defense and not just give them a freebie because they caught us lacking. So, credit to Coach Shane and Gus just, for us talking through those type of situations.
Again, number 44, Zaire Franklin with us here on this Monday morning. I want to go back some comments earlier in the week. It didn't appear to be too much love lost between you and perhaps the head coach on the opposing sideline. Was this circled on the calendar a little bit more, given that it was Matt Eberflus?
Oh, me for sure. I just hope I speak for everyone out there who's ever had a boss or a supervisor or a coach that you may have not felt like believed in you or may have not, trusted you to be the type of player or type of person or, whatever organization you're in that you knew you could be. So, definitely good to see out there. But, there's a lot of people on that staff that I got a lot of love for. Dave Borgonzi, fellow Syracuse grad, that's my guy. It was definitely great to see him and a handful of others. So, but again, I had to be honest with you, it was one of those things where I had to realize, like, the game is it isn't about him. It's about me. It's about what I accomplished. It's about what I was able to persevere through. And it was about trying to help my team, lead my team to a victory. So I'm just glad we got the win, and I was glad I was able to put a performance that not only that I could be proud of, but the fans could be proud of as well.
15 tackles yesterday. Zaire Franklin, the captain, joining us here on the Wake Up Call on the Fan on this Reaction Monday. I think you guys were quoted, after some of the interceptions and tough plays, AR would come to the sideline and he would go right to the defense. Hey, I know I got, basically telling you guys, hey, I know I got to go make that one up. What are those conversations when Anthony makes a mistake, has an interception, then comes and faces the music with the defense? What are those conversations like?
Look, he's not the only one that'll do that. If we, when we play in Houston and, we're giving up touchdowns, we gave up a long drive, and then he just goes answers right back. It's just like, look, I'm trying to, it's me pleading with him. Like, look, man, I'm going to give you the ball right back. Trust me. And then, we went out there and let up another 14-play drive. So, obviously he's a young player, but, the game means so much to him, and, his teammates mean so much to him. So, he just sometimes when, things may not be, going the best way, he feels like, he wants to make sure that we're, he's holding himself accountable to it. I just tell him to keep going, man. We trust him undoubtedly. So, we understand that, there may be highs and lows. It's only so many, career starts since high school. So I understand what comes with that. But as long as you see somebody, that puts the work in every single day in the building, that cares about their sport and that, is willing to go to war for you and with you about anything, you're able to live with mistakes. And I think that's a part of the team game. I told him last night, I said, listen, there's going to be games where, you played bad and we had to win defensively, and there's going to be other games where, like Houston, we should have won that game, but, we couldn't really, we wasn't really getting that many stops, but you were going, blow for blow with, a high-powered offense. So.
Zaire, we'll end with this, and I kind of go back to, like, what we started the interview with. I think fans maybe don't realize kind of what the day after a game is like for you. We mentioned career high in defensive snaps with 90. What does a Monday look like for you in terms of recovery and I guess kind of dissecting the film / any look ahead to Pittsburgh?
For me, everything usually starts with, just getting my body right, kind of doing some self-inventory. To be honest with you, sometimes I don't even know what hurts until I try to go lift. And then I realize, like, oh, damn, when my ribs hurt, you know what I mean? So, that type of thing. And then, just, going back and just sitting in the film room and, talking, the good and the bad. We can't, get too high off of a victory the same way we couldn't get too low off of a loss. So, just making sure that everybody understands that, it's a marathon. And, yes, winning feels good, but there was a price that we paid last week to win, and I think we got to pay that price again to win on Sunday.
Team high, 15 tackles for Zaire Franklin. We thank him for joining us on a Monday morning. It maybe isn't the most eye-popping stat, but Andy, I think when you see Zaire Franklin, EJ Speed back atop the tackle charts for the Colts,
it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It means they stopped the run. They did. Chicago, the ultimate slump buster in that, but they stopped it. Playmaking off of it. Jalen Jones, couple big plays. Latu, the huge strip. Much needed, because Chicago moved it. I mean, Chicago got into Colts territory rather routinely, but only 16 points to show for it.
Shane Steichen, what time does he meet with the media? Is that 11:30 or 12:30?
After 2 o'clock. So we'll see updates.
2 o'clock, okay.
Yeah, Kenny Moore, Quiddy Pay getting banged up there late. So we'll see that again. Steelers in town, slight favorite. Pittsburgh here, undefeated on the season.
Yeah, Jake's coming your way at noon, JMV at 3. Check out our podcast center, 1075thefan.com. Everyone have a good afternoon.